Blah 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 blah. Hello everybody and welcome to I'll Tell You What TV, the unofficial Formula One podcast where we are going to be talking about the recent 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. I'm Dave from I'll Tell You What TV, and I also have Steve and James with me once again. How are you both this evening? Got your shits out of the way, I hope? Oh, okay, it's been a while, knobheads. It's been a while. If we can, yeah, let me introduce you and say nothing. How long did you take pre-planning this, you bastards?
Just think of it every week.
This is what we
automatic now.
It's once you're accused us of having shitty asses, we're like,
I don't know. I give up. I don't know. Anyway, right, we are going to be talking about the Brazilian Grand Prix. I know I've got a lot that I want to talk about. I know Steve's got a lot. I know James has. This has got to be one of the first weekends where afterwards all three of us have really wanted to talk, but all three of us have been kind of like, I can't wait till Tuesday. I can't wait. But we have waited. We haven't talked about what happened in the race at all, really. So it's going to be interesting to find out what our views are. And to be honest, there is only one place we can start, really. Everyone's been talking about it, and that is Verstappen and Ocon. Now, just before we did come live, James, you said, I think we might have a bit to say about Dick of the Day. Sod's Law, we didn't have a Dick of the Day on our predictions this week, but there was a sole candidate potentially for it. So, I know I've got my views on the Verstappen-Ocon situation, but I'm interested to know what your two's views are. So, let's start off with James. James, what do you reckon to the situation?
well, I don't know if I'm like the minority. This is just my opinion, so nobody crucify me. But I thought Verstappen acted like a right little cunt.
Mm.
I think, for me, the rules state if you've got a car, up the inside, or a substantial portion of your car up the inside of another driver, the other driver should leave a car's width. It doesn't say a car on the lead lap, it says a car. Now, I know that Max Verstappen was the race leader, but Esteban Ocon is also in his own race. And we've seen it plenty of other times where, like, I think mentioned about a situation, I think it was 2012, where Lewis Hamilton were at Hockenheim and he unlapped himself against Vettel, and Vettel were foaming, but at the end of the day, yeah, you're not racing for position, but you've still got to give the same respect. Yeah, you're on the lead lap, yeah, you're the leader of the race, you think it's all going to be sunshine and roses to the end. But for Max Verstappen to be so stupid as to just turn in and not leave a car's width, knowing full well, breaking down into turn one, that Esteban Ocon was quicker than him down the straight and was pretty much in front running into turn one. Yeah, running through turn two Max Verstappen was in front, I'd just find it bonkers that Max Verstappen would risk everything and then run around the paddock pushing Esteban Ocon about.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your basic view on it then. So, Steve, your view. Actually, before we get on to you, for anyone that's listening to the podcast, if you do happen to hear a lot of echo from my microphone, just let us know on the YouTube chat. I'm seeing signs that it may be quite sensitive. So if you do have a problem, just let us know and I'll see what I can sort out. So, yeah, Steve, James has given his view then. It would appear that James thinks Verstappen... bit of a dick on that one. So what about yourself?
I've been kind of one side of the fence, and then all of a sudden sitting on the fence, and then thinking about it, and then I'm on the other side of the fence, and I kind of arguing with myself. I'm like the worst neighbour kind of thing. But the way I see it is exactly what James said. What the fuck was Verstappen doing, cutting them up on the corner? But also, Ocon... If it didn't get the move done into turn one, he should have backed out of it and not tried to battle through turn 1 and 2. If you're going to unlap yourself, you've got to clearly be fast enough to do it. And I don't think he was clearly fast enough to be able to do it on that occasion at that point in time. Because when you see DRS overtakes normally into turn 1, they're 2 or 3 car lengths ahead by the braking zone. They've got the move done, and that's just a general overtake. The move is done easy enough into turn 1, and then they're away. Ocon didn't do that against Verstappen. He managed to get up alongside, maybe fractionally ahead on the outside of turn 1. But where was he going to go from there? Was he really going to expect to be able to go side by side through turn 1 and 2? And I don't think that was right to try and do that with the leader. So I'm kind of saying, Ocon was completely bonkers trying to battle through turns 1 and 2 with the leader. I understand that, he was fast enough to try and make the overtake, but on that particular lap, at that particular point in time, I don't think he was. But what the fuck was Max Verstappen doing?
Yeah.
And that's where I keep arguing with myself as well. And then I'm like, well, they're both to blame. They're both at fault.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Well, I'm a bit similar to you, Steve, where I actually haven't been able to nail this down in my own opinion as to one. Well, I got close earlier today, and for me, the best way, or one way that I want to explain it is, if you remember a couple of podcasts ago, one of our listeners asked us the question: if Verstappen and Hamilton were in identical cars, who would win? And I said it'd be Hamilton because he's more mature. He wouldn't take risks when you don't need to. And that was, for me, was kind of proven in that Verstappen, in that situation, if that had been Hamilton, there wouldn't have been contact. Hamilton would have gone, all right, okay, you're going for it. Right, go on then. Go for it. I'll let you go. Now, Verstappen has approached it in a very different way, but I can, in some regards, understand his approach to it, which is, I'm the leader, I can go wherever I want. Now, in a blue flag situation, or even somebody unlapping themselves, I do believe that as the leader, you are within your right to position your car wherever you want. The problem is, if you do it like that, you risk losing the race, and that's something that Verstappen did and has done, and Hamilton wouldn't do and didn't do. And that's why, I mean, Verstappen may not have liked what Hamilton said in the cool-down room afterwards, but Hamilton says, well, he's got every right to try and unlap himself, and I'll get on to Ocon in a minute. So he's got every right to try and unlap himself, but you had more to lose than he did.
Yeah,
so Hamilton straight away would have gone, right, okay. Now, as far as Ocon's concerned, Ocon was in the wrong. I agree with what you said there, Stephen, that heading up to turn 1, by the time they get to like mid-corner turn 1, he should have known then, by that point, this ain't on here. 2 reasons. 1, Verstappen went defensive. Now, if the race leader goes defensive against you when you want to unlap yourself, you don't go for the move. Because that's the race leader telling you, do not bother, right? Stay behind me. Which, as the leader, you have also got a right to do so.
Can I just point something else out as well? Ocon would have made the move. If he'd have made the move and got the overtake done, how many more laps would it have been before he would have been receiving blue flags? Because Max would have been so much quicker than him.
Well,
because that would have happened. It would have. It guaranteed it would have happened that Max would have caught him back up.
Yeah.
So
for me, I agree with you, Steve, that Ocon was in the wrong, and I agree with James that Verstappen was in the wrong. And so I nailed it down to this. Was Ocon's penalty correct? Yes, because in attempting to unlap himself, he did so in an unsafe manner, which caused him to have contact with the race leader or any of the lead lap cars. So that in itself is worthy of a penalty, because if you are going to unlap yourself, the one thing you must not do is make any kind of contact with the other car. Even if
it's the other car's fault,
even if it's the other car's fault, it is your responsibility to make sure there is no contact. Now, admittedly, if you were side by side going down a straight and you were level side by side, and the other guy just decided to turn into you, then you could argue it. But given an overtaking situation, no, it is your responsibility. Take Bottas later on in the race. Was it with Ricciardo into turn one? Bottas sort of was around the outside. Ricciardo closed the door a bit, and Bottas knew, I've got to back out at this point. Now, I'm not a fan of leaving people no space or anything like that. I don't think it should be allowed. But Bottas showed a wise head, avoided the contact, carry on. If Verstappen had just given that bit of room, or said, you know what, I'm not racing you, I've just battered everybody else, right? I've got this in the bag, go on, you can fuck off. You can disappear, go ahead, I don't care. If he'd have done that, he'd have won the race by a mile. But
I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? I mean, Verstappen could have quite easily lifted off into turn one, let him through, and he would have missed out on nothing. He would have ended up getting DRS on the next straight. He probably would have been quicker for the next couple of laps getting DRS.
Yeah.
I mean, Verstappen could have approached that situation in so many different ways.
Yeah. But, Ocon was... For me, I know James wants to say something, but for me, it's going into... I mean, I've been in trying to unlap yourself. I've been in that situation in Formula Sim racing. And one of them, it was actually a teammate, and I couldn't speak to them. If I'd have been able to speak to them, I would have said, look, I'm not going to attack you, but if you can let me through, I can disappear, because I've got brand new tyres on. But because I couldn't talk to him, I literally just had to sit back and wait and do nothing. So even when they made a little bit of a mistake, I still had to wait because the risk was too great, and that would have been the same if it hadn't have been a teammate. So I think Verstappen made a massive racing error, but Ocon fully deserved the penalty that he got. So James, go on, you were going to say something else. James?
I'm still here.
James! I know you are, I can hear you.
Well, I'll comment then on something. Do you think, because I'm not aware of this, whether it happened or not, but Verstappen's engineer, do you think he would have actually said, Ocon's catching you, he's on fresh tyres, he's probably going to try and unlap himself?
Maybe. I mean, in the argument I've had with myself of trying to work out whose fault it was, I mean, surely, as a driver, I mean, Lewis Hamilton, when he was leading the race, was able to see what Verstappen was doing 2 cars back, which means Verstappen should have known what was happening with Ocon. However, I do know that quite often when people are racing, if they know there's a bit of a gap to the car behind, you don't look in your mirrors. because you don't need to. You just focus on what is in front of you and nothing else, and you just wait for your engineer to tell you if the car you're racing is catching you up or not. And then at a certain point you go, right, well, let me know when he's a second and a half, and then I know to look in my mirrors. So if
you know you've had a Felix out of a corner, you know, to check your mirrors.
Yeah. So if Verstappen was not aware of Ocon and his engineer hasn't told him, then that wouldn't be great. But at the same time, it wouldn't take long. As soon as you're on that back straight, you say to your engineer, what's Ocon doing here? And he can say, oh, his back marker is on fresh tyres, let him through. Or, he's a back marker, ignore him. Now, if his engineer has said he's a back marker, ignore him, he's got every right to do so. But for me, it's that bit of Verstappen going defensive. That there is the first signal that Ocon needed, that was to say, not this lap. Not right now, because like you said, if he'd have waited one more lap and he'd have been able to be ahead of him before turn one, yeah, no problem, go for it. But at the same time, given that James is back, at the same time, given that this season the teams have been saying that a car needs 8 seconds of clear air in front of them, I could perhaps understand Verstappen or his engineer going, you know what, we don't want this back marker in front of us because it could disrupt our race. But against that, and this is where I've been kind of arguing, against that, one of the reasons that Max Verstappen had a chance of winning the race was the condition of the Red Bull tyres on both Verstappen and Ricciardo's car compared to the Mercs and the Ferraris. The Red Bull is phenomenally good on its tyres. So when Hamilton and Bottas were pitting, the Red Bull tyres still look brand new.
Max even said these tyres are getting faster.
I mean, I wrote something down, but I don't know if I heard it right or not. But I thought I heard Max Verstappen say, tell Lewis my tyres are getting faster.
Yeah.
So did he say that?
I don't know whether he said tell Lewis, but I know he definitely said my tyres are getting faster.
Yeah. Okay, James, you're back with us, so I don't know if you've been listening in.
Yeah, sorry, I went to just warm my tea up in the microwave. Yeah, I think the only thing for me is I can see both arguments, but all I'll say is it's one of them situations where if Max Verstappen had either not have defended turn one or left room at turn two, he'd have won the race and we wouldn't even be talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So both for instances, it were Max Verstappen's input. Max Verstappen defended into turn one, forcing Ocon round the outside. Ocon was then had pretty much 2/3 of his car up the inside. I probably would be like, yeah, I know this is not for position, but I've got enough of my car up the inside here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. If it was for position, it would have been Verstappen's fault, and Verstappen would have got the penalty for it, in my opinion.
But I know that it's a car that's a lap down, but I don't see how it. I understand the situation, but every single racing driver should adhere to exactly the same rules, no matter whether you're a lapped car or you're not a lapped car.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Part of me would agree with you on that one. I know when we were running an F1 gaming league, I mean, we never had this particular situation, but I suppose for the simplicity of rules, I would probably have implemented because one of our rules was you give space at all occasions. It doesn't matter who's got the racing line, who hasn't got the racing line, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. You give space. Because if you give space, collisions don't happen and you can have some great races. Now, when it comes to competing against a back marker trying to unlap themselves, if you still had that rule, then it'd be cut and dry and Verstappen would get the penalty for it. But at the same time, I can fully appreciate being a leader and being in a blue flag situation and someone not getting out of your way, or somebody trying to unlap themselves. But I would approach it completely different to the way Verstappen would have done. I would have, either by my own knowledge or through my engineer, have known exactly which car was behind me and what they're up to. And if they were on faster tyres at that time, newer tyres, and were looking like wanting to unlap themselves, I'd just let them get on with it. If they then can't pull away and get blue flagged, that's their problem, not mine. But I wouldn't put myself in that situation of defending the person. I mean, it is an awkward one in many respects. I can understand Verstappen's frustration because, to a degree, with the rules, he is right. As the race leader, you can pretty much position your car where you want, and Ocon should have backed out of it given the current rules. Ocon didn't back out of it, so there was contact with the leader, and that's a situation that shouldn't happen. So that's where I'm sort of holding a knife to my throat and to the opposition, because if you are going to unlap yourself, you just cannot make contact, whether it's your fault or not.
Yeah.
So, looking at this from a dick of the day, can you say that Ocon was the dick, or would you actually say that Verstappen was more of a dick because he had more to lose?
I'd put it. I'd give them both an award. Ocon for not adhering to the rules, and Verstappen for losing a race effectively.
Because I see it as it was Verstappen's fault that he lost that race, not the actions of Ocon. What Ocon did was wrong because he was trying to unlap himself.
Yeah.
But Verstappen had many options to avoid a situation there.
Yeah.
And he would have walked away with that victory. Literally walked it. Now, so for me, Ocon wasn't necessarily the dick of the day, even though he was in the wrong. I think Verstappen was more of a dick.
Yeah.
I think for the way he reacted in the weighing bit. I mean, if you're gonna go over to somebody and really kick off, kick off.
Yeah.
Don't push people around like a little wuss.
I mean, I'm not for violence at all, but I don't know.
That's not. You know, like when it shows, like I think it's on BBC F1 when they used to do it. On build up to that, they always used to have that bit where PK or somebody smashing somebody in the face
with their own.
Always used shown
or
that ain't gonna fucking shown. That ain't gonna be remembered.
No, Schumacher charging through the pit lane to get to Coulthard at Spa. Now, do you want to know something that gets me right? Is that without that incident, right, that would have been one of the best wins of the season by any driver. His drive up to that point was outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
Do you think, though, that because a lot of people say that Max Verstappen is a potential world champion, and is still young and is still learning and is going to benefit from these mistakes he's making because he's getting knowledge and experience. Do you think, though, that he will learn and he won't do the same thing again, or do you think he's so stuck in his ways that he'll always do the same thing?
I would like to think that Red Bull have got somebody like Niki Lauda. Because let's put it this way, if that had been in Mercedes and that had been Lewis Hamilton and Niki Lauda was going to have a chat with him after the race, what would Niki Lauda be saying to him?
You fucking dickhead.
Yeah. What did you do that for, you twat? Or even Alain Prost. I mean, I'm not a fan of Alain Prost, but I can appreciate and respect the way he thought about his races.
He would have calculated that 2 laps earlier and known exactly what to do.
Exactly. Senna may have defended it, but Hamilton wouldn't have. Well, I mean, if you go through it, Hamilton wouldn't have done that. Alonso wouldn't have done that. Vettel's one that I think he might have done that. Raikkonen wouldn't have done that. Bottas wouldn't have done. So Rosberg wouldn't have done that. And yes, he is young, and hopefully, yes, he will learn from it. But it depends on how stubborn he might be. And the problem with it is sometimes you only learn from your mistakes. But because it is Ocon that got the penalty, Verstappen may never see it as he made a mistake. Now, according to the rules, with that given situation, Verstappen didn't make a mistake. However, he did. It was a mistake of the maker, and he made it. So
what a mistake of the maker.
Yeah, and sometimes there's drivers that when they're younger they do make mistakes. Hunt made them, Lauda made them, Senna made them, Prost they've all made them, and eventually for some it turns them into a better driver. And if that is going to help Verstappen later on in his career, then it could be an interesting career, because there was something I noticed. Now, if you remember when we did the review on America, I mentioned about the interview with Lewis Hamilton where Johnny Herbert asked him about, you're approaching turn 1 with Vettel on the left and Max on the right, which way do you go? So you go left because Max is on your right. Yeah. Now, I took that as that's understandable, but is there not a bit of weakness, but concern or fear? This weekend was the first time I would say I heard fear in Hamilton's voice that Verstappen was catching him so quickly before he passed him.
Because it was wanting to know exactly what lap times,
how was his tyres, and maybe fear is the wrong word, concern or panic.
Concern.
Is the way I kind of read that. But yeah, so I can imagine that the Verstappen-Ocon argument could go on for a long time. But I'll tell you what, James, we'll give you final say on it. Who was at fault?
I think you've convinced me a bit more that Ocon shouldn't have put himself in that position. Overall,
it's hard, isn't it?
For me, overall, watching that race, and I even said it to Vicky, I says, as it were all kicking off and everything, thinking, yeah, Hamilton realistically should have come second, but he won the race. What the fuck happened to Bottas?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in exactly the same car, and his teammates won the race, and he's gone backwards.
Yeah.
That, for me, if I were a boss, if I'm a Toto Wolff, I'd be kind of going to Bottas. Look, I don't want to mount any more pressure on you than you need, but
it's some pressure.
Yeah, if you don't improve by the first 5 races next season, there's a possibility your contract will be null and void, because there must be something in that contract that says a performance clause or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
because
I know having someone like Hamilton as your teammate can make you look totally shit, even though you're trying your best. But to me, with Bottas, his best doesn't seem to be good enough a lot of the time. Well, it surprises me that
if you're good enough to be in Formula 1, you need to be the standard of Rosberg. You might not be the fastest every single race, but you're there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And no offence, Bottas is not in the same category.
Well, you know what? I have thought a little bit about this, because I got thinking about Verstappen's race. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll put the race in a nutshell for me. I thought it was a brilliant race. Really exciting. I don't really know much of what happened outside the top 6, but I made a note, right? This is quite a poignant note, I think. I'll get on to the point I really wanted to make in a second. Let's see. Lap 40, I wrote, this is a good race in the top 6. I don't know what's happening everywhere else, but at least we're watching a battle, not a procession. So for me, the broadcast team did a great job. There was a lot going off in the top 6 and they focused on it. And that's what you should do as a broadcaster. You focus on the battle that is closest to the front. And
when you think about it, though, the battle that was most important was the Constructors' Championship
and
what was happening with Mercs and the Ferraris.
Yeah, it just happened that the Red Bulls were phenomenally fast and were right in the mix. But now we're going to the point I really wanted to make, right? And it kind of ties into what you're saying, James. Maybe. I've already said that Verstappen had an outstanding race. He really, really did. But is any of that to do with his engine? And his being newer than the Mercedes and the Ferraris? Was Bottas's engine older than Hamilton's? Is that why maybe he didn't quite have the pace?
Well, Hamilton had a problem with his engine.
Yeah. So
so I reckon if that Merc were on full beams, I don't think Max would have been able to get close on that straight. But I mean, you could clearly see that Red Bull were just night and day better than anything else.
Yeah, and it's clear as day to see with the tyres. I mean, Vettel was burning his up on Friday. So, I mean, I love the fact that there's different characteristics of the cars, and it's possible that Mercedes and Ferrari having the benefit of extra speed comes at a cost of tyres. Right, I don't have a problem with that, because if you've then got teams that are a little bit slower but have got a benefit of a better tyre situation, it swings and roundabouts. Yeah. But what I don't like is that, as we've mentioned before, was Bottas slower than Hamilton because he didn't have a very good race, or was his engine older? Did he have to turn his engine down because it's got to make
This is it. I mean, exactly what you said a few weeks ago. If they all had new engines every race, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because they're dragging these engines round that pretty much should have been binned by now.
Yeah.
It's. I mean.
Well, it's a little.
It's mental.
Well, it's a little bit. It's a little bit like, okay, if you, James, knew nothing about Formula 1 and I gave you a piece of paper that said Pierre Gasly has beaten Brendan Hartley X amount of times this season, which one's the better driver? Your answer would be, oh, well, Gasly, because he's beaten the other guy. But then when I tell you, well, Gasly's had a brand new engine at most races and Hartley hasn't. Also, Gasly's had newer engines, like the next spec engines, they've got more power. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, okay, well, how much of that then is because of the engine?
Yeah. Or Hartley's had the unfortunate situation, it's been his engine that's been breaking down more.
Yeah.
Or been crashed into by other drivers, it's not his fault.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit like saying, right, okay, we've got the FA Cup final, but one of the teams has got to play with diarrhoea, the other one hasn't. There's only going to be one team that wins that game. But anyway. But yeah, I mean, as a race though, I was absolutely gripped from start to finish, and I'm going to make this point again. Oh, it was on a proper racetrack, which could beg the question. I'm going to throw it in there now. Beg the question: does Formula 1 need to go to Vietnam?
No.
No, it doesn't. It needs to go back to Turkey, but. After seeing the layout of Vietnam and watching a few of the YouTube clips with that woman from the F1 online
that James doesn't like,
after seeing the circuit, where they're planning on going and what they're planning on doing with it, it could create a very good race. The possibility of a good race. I don't like the fact though that they've gone, well, we're going to design through because it's like basically big parking lots and some buildings, and they're going, we're going to clear all this out, and this is where it's effectively going to be a replica of turn 1 at Monaco up to turn 4 at 5 at Monaco, where Casino Square is. and it's going to be a replica, and it's slight gradient uphill. We're going to close the walls in, so it's going to be like Monaco. Why make it like another circuit? We've got that already.
Yeah.
And how many overtakes you see
Up
at
that
turn
hill.
one, out of turn one and up the hill?
Yeah.
What's the point?
I mean, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, for fuck's sake. But then I thought, no, let's approach it with an open mind. If it's a good track, it doesn't matter where it is. But if it's not a good track, it's a complete waste of time and money. It doesn't matter how many jobs it'll create if it loses the Formula 1 fans. Because if you lose the Formula 1 fans, all those jobs that have been created are no longer going to exist because there won't be a sport to prepare for.
But the other thing, the problem I've got as well with it is it's another race adding onto the calendar, or is it they're going to remove a race from the calendar? And if they're removing a race, which one are we going to lose? Are we going to lose one that creates good races? Because what I've heard is Silverstone have pulled out of their agreement to extend their contract and want to renegotiate it. Now, with them pulling out of their original contract, they've got no contract on the table past 2019 or something, unless they negotiate a new contract, which might not happen. So it could end up being that we end up with Vietnam instead of Silverstone.
I think if that happened, there'd be a lot of problems with form. They would lose such a fan base, I think.
But what I don't understand is, though, I mean, obviously it comes down to how much Silverstone has to pay the Formula One to host the Grand Prix. Are you telling me then that it's the same figure for Vietnam?
Well,
to host it.
That's the question, isn't it? I suppose.
Because I'm pretty sure Formula One would have, the agreement with Vietnam would be a lot cheaper to try and get the sport into that country. So why penalise Silverstone and ask for multi-million pounds more?
I'd add on that. Why penalise Silverstone for being a success?
Yeah.
Because Silverstone is, with its track layout, even though I don't like turn 4, 5, and the final chicane, for its races that happen there, for the size of the crowds that you get there.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You don't see those sort of crowds anywhere else other than probably Monza. Yeah.
I mean,
and probably in the last year as well, at Germany. This year at Germany, the crowd at Germany was large, but not as large as Silverstone.
Suzuka gets good crowds. Monza does.
Spa gets good crowds.
Brazil. I mean, I know we've talked before about the type of racetracks, but the Interlagos circuit is, I was going to say, there's nothing special about the track, because really there isn't, but it's just got such a flow to it that creates drama, that if the weather comes down, it's chaos.
I would describe that circuit, the Interlagos circuit, as a go-kart track for Formula 1 cars. Because go-kart tracks have got tight twisty bits but are fast and flowing, and then a stupidly long fast bit, and that's basically what it is. It's like turns within itself. And
James knows all about go-kart tracks, don't you, James?
Yeah.
There's lots of corners on the straights, isn't there?
We should have got a video of that. That was hilarious. Just for anyone watching, we went in go-karts on GT Sport, and James couldn't keep it in a straight line.
Neither could we. Neither could we.
No,
wobbling all over the place. There were no chance. But then I was looking at you two, and you were just like bullseye straight, and I'm like going in a straight line, and it was literally back end just going left, right, left, right, left, right.
Well, I figured out that when you try and correct it, you're making it worse, so don't try and correct it.
You see, I learned a trick with the go-karts on GT, which is usually when you're driving, you would force the wheel to steer, right? With the go-karts, don't. Your aim is to force it straight. So rather than turning, you just want to keep it straight. So when you do turn, you turn a little bit, and then it's a fight, just right, straight. It's a bit weird, but anyway. Right, talking about weird driving, get back to this weekend's Grand Prix. Obviously, we talked about Verstappen and Ocon there, and that was a big part of the race. But I now want to just sort of step back a little bit and talk about a little bit of the qualifying session. Two things. One, Hamilton blocking twice. Should there have been a penalty or not? And two, after I'd mentioned a few weeks ago on one of our podcasts about the random weighbridge, the situation with Sebastian Vettel in qualifying. So let's start off with Hamilton in qualifying. Let's go to James again. James, blocking twice, should he have had a penalty?
I personally, even though I'm a Hamilton fan, I personally thought, I think he'll be expecting a penalty here. And I was really surprised when no came of it. I was like, eh?
Yeah, well, the FIA's report on it was that with Sirotkin was on an out lap, not a hot lap. And with Raikkonen, it didn't affect his qualifying position.
Still,
I still would have given something.
I think it was dangerous what he did though with Sirotkin. I mean, in that situation, it would have been better off not moving rather than trying to avoid. But yeah, it wasn't good, was it?
No.
I mean, I think the one with Kimi Raikkonen, because Raikkonen was on a hot lap, you could say that one was worse because Hamilton was kind of dawdling, not close enough. I mean, he was too close to the right for Raikkonen to go down the right, and Raikkonen wasn't sure what he was going to do. But I know one of the things Paul di Resta said if he was a steward looking at that, the one thing he would have looked for is, did Raikkonen's DRS have to close? Because if his DRS didn't close, that means that Raikkonen he was flat out. So he was aware of it, he dealt with it, it's not a problem. So he may not have penalised him for that one because his DRS didn't close. The second one, though, he probably would have penalised him for. Because although, yes, Sirotkin was on an out lap, it was into the final corner. And the final corner dictates your straight line speed all the way up the hill. So once you've had that, oh shit, swerved out of the way, that's it. Your next lap's done. Because you ain't getting round that last corner in the way you should to start your lap.
Well, it prevented him from using the racing line into the last corner.
Yeah. I mean, having said that, wasn't it Grosjean that basically sat on the apex of the final corner and blocked Bottas, made Bottas go around the outside of him? I think that may have been in Q1 or 2, and I think he got away with that, luckily. So, I mean, in some respects, I can understand the FIA saying, like, well, Kimi Raikkonen got through anyway, it doesn't matter. I can kind of understand that, but when you look back and go, well, hang on, what was it Ricciardo got his 3-place penalty for twice? And didn't somebody else get a 3-place grid penalty for a bit of blocking in qualifying as well? Oh no, that was speeding under red flags, wasn't it?
Yeah, Vettel
and Ricciardo was speeding under, so a little bit different perhaps.
Alright, what about Weybridge?
The weighbridge. Well, that's an interesting one. So I know I've got my views on it. So what do you guys think?
James?
Started to come across a bit pathetic, but at the same time, no offence, in them situations, it's so crucial is the time because of the weather.
Yeah.
And the fact that if the FIA say to any car, right, you come in now, you've been randomly selected, they should be ready to service.
Yeah.
But do you know what though, James?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Just on this, the reason why they weren't ready, the computer picks at random a car that is on the circuit, so that when it comes in, it's going to be given the red flag on the entry to the pit, sorry, the red light to do the weighbridge. Mm-hmm. The FIA saw Vettel go out on his out lap and expected him to start his hot lap, but instead of going on to his hot lap, he came into the pits.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of the pit entry there, as soon as he goes into the pits, the computer automatically puts on the red light because he's been selected. The FIA know that he's going to be doing a weighbridge, but don't expect it that lap. They don't expect him to do a hot lap.
Tough.
But they
They
weren't
should have
ready.
been tough. They should have been ready. I agree with James. They should have been ready.
What I always say to anybody in anything, don't expect anything.
Yeah.
Be prepared for every situation. I know it's hard, but that's what the FIA get paid for.
It's not right now, but give it half an hour.
Should the FIA?
Someone will get that joke.
Should the FIA have a pit crew, like a Formula One pit crew, that will try and get that job done within seconds, like when they try and change wheels, and they're all over the car and they get it done? Should have like 4 people there pushing it up, pushing it off, weighing it. Have crash helmets on in case anything goes wrong. Not a bloke in a suit with a clipboard.
Yeah.
You know what? That might not be a bad idea. If it was like, okay, drive in, front jack, rear jack, weight, scales go under, drop it down, right, lift it up, scales out, off you go. That might work, but then you'd have to question the calibration of the scales. I mean, I know we did talk about it on a podcast a few weeks ago, and if I remember rightly, I was saying that when you've got sort of potentially changeable conditions, you shouldn't be holding somebody up in that situation. I understand the cars need weighing, but let's face it, did Vettel's car need weighing at that point? No, he hadn't done a lap. So there should have been the possibility for somebody at that station to go, well, he's not done a lap time, we don't need to weigh him, we'll get him next time. No problem then. No problem. What are you doing weighing a car that hasn't actually done a lap? Okay, he's done 2 of the qualifying sessions, but right now when you want to weigh him, they haven't done a lap. So if they were underweight at that point, what effect's it going to have? Fucking none. Although they may still disqualify him. But they should have had the common sense to go, he hasn't done a lap, carry on. Now, if it had rained and he'd have been held up from that massive uproar, on the flip side though, I kind of agree with you a little bit, James, where at first you said you thought it was a little bit petulant, or you might use a different word. I agree, right? When you're a driver and you get called to the weighbridge, you know what the process is, and you do that process. So it doesn't matter when you've been called in or what the situation is, you go through your process. Now, some people might not necessarily see what the problem is. Well, the car has to stop, right, and then it's pushed onto the weighbridge, right, and then it's pushed off the weighbridge. And one of the reasons for that is if you drive it up and down, you can damage the scales and you might not get a correct reading. So you get pushed on, get pushed off. Now, that's obviously not what Vettel did, and when he got going, he's damaged the scales. So I think it's right that he's been fined, and I think it's right that he didn't get a grid drop penalty or anything like that. But I think the FIA need to look at a different way of dealing with that situation. Now, I was wondering whether they may be able to do something a little bit different, right? But I don't know if it'd work. And that would be that during qualifying sessions, every car that enters the pits, right, you know the weighbridge that's in the FIA garage, right?
Yeah.
If they had that at the start of the pit lane, right? So during qualifying, any car that enters the pits has to drive in onto the ramp, stop, gets weighed, carries on. Every team then factors their longer pit entry into their race weekend, right? And every car gets weighed, so nobody can go, well, you know what?
Problem with that is, let's say for instance, let's say 4 cars enter the pit lane at the same time in a row behind each other, right? The first car pulls up, stops, gets weighed, probably takes 10 or 15 seconds to be stationary. We'll say 20 just to make it easy with the maths. 20 seconds, then pushed off and gone. So the next car has had to wait for 20 seconds while the other car has been stationary. So then they're stationary for another 20 seconds. So the third car is there for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fourth car is there for is there for 80 seconds or whatever it is.
I mean,
so it can create a bottleneck. There is another option, and there's enough money in Formula One to fund it, and that is to put a weigh bridge in each pit lane, each pit garage.
Yeah.
So the car is weighed before it leaves the pit garage. They have enough people, FIA delegates, in the garages where they're monitoring that nothing gets tampered with the cars and the correct wheels are on the correct cars. All they've got to do is take a reading of the weight.
Yeah. That's probably the better idea, because you'd have the reading of it when it leaves the box, and you'd have the reading of it when it comes back in.
Yep. I mean, let's face it, the teams weigh the cars anyway in the garages, so they know what the weight is.
That's true.
So why don't the FIA take the reading there?
You're onto something there, Steve.
Because, the FIA might as well. All they've got to do is make sure that those scales are calibrated and take those readings.
Yeah. Oh. It would also mean as well that if their own scales had a problem at any point, they could choose any one of the team's garages to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that bad an idea, James is being very quiet. He's thinking, I wouldn't want to be weighed every time I get in and out of my car.
Yeah, I just think, no offence, but at the end of the day, the FIA get paid enough money to govern the sport.
Yeah.
And, I'm watching a video and it was going, oh, well, it's really good because in the past they had to wheel them into a garage, and now they can just lay out the scales in the pit lane. It's like, what year we living in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like 1980s anymore.
I mean,
You've got no problem.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way, right? Go down to your local car scrappers and see if they've got a part of the road that can weigh vehicles.
Yeah. We know there's one here.
Yeah. Well, there's two. The part of the road is tarmacked, but it's a massive weigh bridge. Truck stops have them. I mean, the technology is out there.
A mate of ours who used to race stock cars would take his stock car down to the scrap merchants just to weigh it on their scales, so he knew what weight it was when he needed to take it to a race meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the technology is there, but I do think that Vettel was a little bit. I still think he was a little bit childish. He should have handled that situation better. But at the same time, I can understand his frustration, because I know I'd be pissed off in that situation. Right. The race then. I mean, we've talked a bit about a couple of snippets of the race. And you two both said you got loads you want to talk about regarding this one. So come on then, fire away.
Well, that was it.
All right.
No, I mean, the other thing was, like James mentioned, Bottas's pace. Where's that gone? I was actually thinking that during the race. Why is Bottas so far off what you'd expect?
Do you think
he only capable of doing it? Is he only capable of doing it at Russia?
Do you think he was actually trying to hold up the Ferraris though, to get the Red Bulls to attack the Ferraris? See, that's what I thought.
But it was slow once they got past.
Yeah, true.
And it wasn't like he was saving his tyres. So, I mean, if you're going slow and holding up cars, your tyres should be in a lot better condition than Lewis Hamilton's that's pushing to create the gap. Yeah, his tyres were just as bad.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's... I think it's more down to the car, the engine on that day. Also, I mean, the track temperature was different to what they'd had for the rest of the weekend.
And they put the tyre pressures up to 23 psi.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I still don't necessarily understand. Constantly changing the maximum limits of the tyre pressures. I mean, me personally.
Well, they're minimum limits.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, Mercedes get round that anyway. I'm guessing you've both seen how Mercedes get round that.
They send them out on lower PSI.
No.
And then when the tyres warm up, they increase the PSI themselves because of the hotter the air gets, the air expands.
Well, not quite. They send them out with the correct minimum amount, but they take the tyre blankets off about a minute before the car goes out. so that the rear tyre temperatures come down, the pressure comes down, so they're actually at a lower pressure once they're doing the laps they want. So for
until
me,
the tyres get up to temperature again.
yeah. So for me, it's kind of pointless. I mean, that's one of those things where, okay, they adjusted the front maximum camber angle, right? Said you can't go more than 3.5% because if you do, it'll damage the tyres. Me personally, go what you like, guys. If it means you're going to blow up the tyres, that's your own fault. I mean, it's not my problem. I mean, we've got a working range, and they'll work fine within this range. If you want to push the limits and the boundaries, go for it. But don't blame us if your tyres go pop. and that's something that always pissed me off with Ferrari and Red Bull sometimes in the past. Ferrari more than anything. I mean, I remember Vettel going long, like twice as long as anybody else at Spa, and then blaming Pirelli when his tyre burst. And he did the same at Austria, and it's like, hang on a minute.
They were recommended to do 25 laps, and he did 59 or something.
Yeah, it's a little bit like saying, okay, Durex recommend you only use a condom once, but I'm going to use it twice. I reckon I'll be all right.
Oh. Can you just imagine putting a used one back on again? Right. Anyway, something else about the race.
Yeah.
Who was surprised that Ferrari switched to Raikkonen and Vettel?
I was.
Yeah, I was surprised. Because it wasn't clear to me at that stage that Raikkonen had more pace. It just looked like that they were both stuck behind Bottas.
Now, you see, for me, I'd clocked onto it early on. I mean, you mentioned about Bottas having a bad race. To be fair, Vettel had a bad race as well. Didn't have the greatest of starts, and Kimi jumped him. And Kimi hasn't gained many positions at all this season at the start of races. But, as we know, Kimi's been let off the leash a little bit. But Vettel, he just didn't seem to be able to get in the groove all race long, and because of tyre wear had to pit twice. Now, for me, I had spotted that Kimi Raikkonen was, after he'd pitted, had caught Vettel up, because I was a bit annoyed that Ferrari had pitted Vettel first. Now, I'm not saying that every team should have the rule of the leading car pits first or whatever, but it's kind of the way that teams do it. Now,
but if Raikkonen's gone on the radio and said, "No, I don't need to pit yet. My tyres are good. I'm going to keep going," that opens the door for Vettel to pit.
Yeah, obviously there's no problem for that. Now, given that Kimi then caught back up to Vettel, I was surprised that they let him through, because I actually did write down saying Vettel has undercut Kimi Raikkonen, what the fuck are Ferrari doing? But what I will say is, as much as us three hate it when FOM on the footage show anything other than what's happening on the track, there was one little snippet of footage I am glad they showed this week.
Arriva Benny.
It was Arriva Benny. That moment where Arriva Benny was sat there, nodded his head and signalled, switch him around. Now, you would never normally see such a dramatic decision, but that was one I was like, well, yeah, you can tell he's Italian, and it's the right fucking decision to make. And I actually wrote down, well done, Arriva Benny.
Yeah. Maybe he was doing it to keep his job.
Go on, James. I know you like talking about Arriva Benny.
Yeah, no, I really like Arriva Benny, and I think when he first came in, it looked like he didn't have a lot of pressure from the top boss.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the pressure were applied, you could kind of see that it kind of wilted a bit. And I feel that since his previous boss has keeled over, I feel like he's coming back, like he's a bit more like pressure's off and I can do what I want and get stuff done the way I want them done.
Yeah.
Nobody who's at the top of the game wants to be told what to do. They want to do it how they want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, given the situation, they would have been wrong to tell Kimi Raikkonen not to attack Vettel, especially when you look at how Kimi Raikkonen ended up on the podium. And they were right to. I mean, they clearly told Vettel, right, switch around, and I'm glad they did, because there's been many times this season where Kimi Raikkonen has been held back, and I'm glad that he's definitely been let off the leash. And for me, Kimi Raikkonen's since the last 6 races, since Monza, he has shown he is more than capable still, and we were questioning that, and I don't think it's a question anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say, what about Ricciardo then? Okay, Ricciardo finished the race.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic drive. I just feel that he kind of lacks that cheekiness that Verstappen has. I know like at Monza, he can do them damn dare braking manoeuvres. But I kind of felt like he lacked that this race, and Verstappen were the one forcing the issue. And yeah, he was a bit too far back on every occasion with Bottas. But he should have thought to himself, you know what, Bottas needs to stay in the race for the championship. If he turns in, Mercedes won't win the championship. So I'd kind of think, well, the pressure's more on him. I'll go for it and see what happens.
All right then, James. Do you think it's possible then that Ricciardo, given how his season has gone, consciously decided, you know what, if I'm out of this race, it ain't going to be my fault, so I am going to be a little bit more careful?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. What do you think, Steve?
Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Do you think Ricciardo likes having his bum licked?
No.
Can tell you definitely weren't listening to the question. No, the question was, do you think that Ricciardo perhaps approached this race more cautiously with the thought of, if I end up not finishing this race, it will not be because it was my fault? So he didn't take some of the risks he may have done in the past.
It did come across that he wanted to finish the race, but I think he would have equally preferred to have had 3rd place. So,
well, he did very, very, very nearly get 3rd place. I mean, it was a brilliant battle between the top 6 from start to finish. Although Vettel and Bottas were the poorer of the 6 in that race, but the rest of the action. I mean, how many times this season have we been gripped by a race? 2, including Brazil.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you said to Steve and me, James, that Steve's Racing League has more action in one race than F1 has had all season.
Exactly. It's F1 this season. It's been a really, really poor show. Really poor. I mean, I'm looking back at some footage of the 2009 season, and even in that season, that's when like the Brawn was dominant, and it wasn't until the second half of the season that the Red Bull came good. But there was so much. It were like an hour of highlights from that season. I don't think you could get an hour's worth of highlights this season. You can get about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a tough season. It's definitely been a tough season to do a podcast about them. I mean, for anyone that listens to say a lot of Formula One podcasts, you'll see that we don't go into like full technical discussion and stuff like that. We know enough, but we don't want to bore everybody. We try and keep things a little light-hearted and a little fun. And it hasn't been easy a lot of times this season. But I know that sort of 2/3 of the way through the race, I was thinking, you know what, this really is a brilliant fucking race. But then it was followed up with this thought: if only the rest of the field could keep up with them.
Yeah.
Because then
exactly.
It would be absolutely amazing. Now, as I've said, I don't blame FOM for not showing much of what happened to the rest of the field in the race in Brazil. I probably would have done a very similar thing. And to be fair, the Sky UK commentary team did a pretty good job in the If there was stuff kicking off further down the field, you'd get told about it, even if you didn't see it. But this was a race where, you know what, they probably could have done with a few more replays. I know that it's sacrilege for James to hear that, I know, but I didn't find out what had happened with the Toro Rossos until today. Now, do you two know what happened with the Toro Rossos?
Well, no, because
No.
I was told what were going on. Oh, the both Toro Rossos are fighting tooth and nail. Like, thanks for telling me, I can't see it.
Yeah. Well, would you like to know what happened?
Yeah, it'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Brendan Hartley...
I haven't got a fucking clue.
Brendan Hartley is on fresher tyres than Pierre Gasly, and he's catching Pierre Gasly. But he's also got Sainz and a couple of other cars behind him. I mean, at one point, 13th to 20th all had less than 1 second between each car. That's how close 7 of them were. So anyway, Brendan Hartley is catching up to Pierre Gasly, and Brendan Hartley is told by his engineer, we're going to swap you two around, so we're going to do a driver swap. It wasn't Brendan Hartley saying, I've caught him up, get him out of my way. It was the team said, we're going to get him to move out of the way for you. Okay, no problem. Gasly's engineer said, driver swap, turn 4, driver swap, turn 4. And then Brendan Hartley's on the radio, so we're at turn 5, he's not let me past yet, what's happening, guys? And his engineers go, right, we'll try a driver swap at turn 1, driver swap turn 1 this next lap. Gasly's engineer tells Gasly, okay, Pierre, driver swap turn 1, please, driver swap turn 1. Hartley's coming out of turn 3, guys, he's still not letting me past. And Gasly's on the radio giving it, he's got faster tyres than me, if he wants to come past he can fucking overtake me. What's the fucking problem? His engineer's telling him, the engineer's giving it, come on Pierre, just let him pass please, let him pass, but then stay ahead of Sainz, because I can't do that, Sainz is too close to him. If I let Hartley through, I'm going to get overtaken. If he's faster, he can overtake me. While all this is going on, Brendan Hartley's sat in his car going, what's going on, guys? I'm not attacking him because you're telling me that we're swapping. So Brendan Hartley, he's not even trying because he's told, oh, we're going to swap you. And Pierre Gasly is giving, well, if he's fast enough, he can fucking overtake me. Not knowing that Hartley's not actually attacking him. So this goes on for like 3 laps, and it goes like, driver swap turn 1. Oh, fuck, they've not done it. Right, driver swap turn 4. Fucking hell, he's still not done it. Right, driver swap turn 1 this lap, please. Fucking hell, he's still not fucking done it. So yeah, it goes on for a few laps, and eventually Hartley's kind of like, you know what, fuck this, and goes for it and makes the move into turn 1. And that's when I think the commentary team mentioned about they were going tooth and nail. So once Hartley knew, look, Gasly's not willing to give the position freely here, you're going to have to go for it, he went for it, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. The extended version. Now, what else was there? I know we've still got our predictions to go through. But, I mean, that's something where, from this race, if we'd have had more replays of that during the race, I don't think we'd have minded. But, because there was a lot going on in the top 6, I can understand that they weren't showing that much going on further down the field. But this is where I wonder if F1 would be better doing, they go, right, okay, here's your race, your live feed for the race, and then once the race is finished, we're basically going to show everything we couldn't show live. So if people do want to have a look and see what else was going on, here you go, here's the footage, and just play it on a loop. But I can't see anything like that ever happening, and the reason why is because of things like the F1 app, where you can go and basically ride on board any driver. And that, for me, people will look at it and go, oh, this is amazing. What they don't realise is that it's basically a company going, you know what, we could broadcast all this stuff, or we could just make them come and watch it if they want to. It's a little bit like, if you use a self-checkout till, should your shopping be cheaper because you're effectively doing a member of staff's job?
Well, yeah. I never pay for a bag if I'm doing it myself. That's my fee.
Well, something about that. Do you know where the bags for life? There's a barcode on the bottom of them. There's a barcode on a little tag that makes you pay 25p or 50p or whatever it is per bag. But there's a barcode on the bottom that says bag for life replacement bag. Scan that barcode and it's free.
Oh.
Because basically, if you've bought one already, but you need to replace it because it's damaged through usage, you can replace it with another one. That's why they're called bag for life.
James is never going to buy a bag again.
Exactly.
So always scan the barcode on the bottom and it's free.
I do hate it when I get to the shop and go, fuck, I forgot a bag. I've got so many. One day, right, guys, we're going to have a bag counting competition and see who's got the most. Because
it's funny you say that.
I think I'd win.
I watched just today, actually, only a couple of hours ago. I watched what's his name, Lee Evans, and he's going on about bloody shopping bags in drawers, bags in bags, bags in drawers. Yeah.
I've been watching a few clips of Lee Evans recently as well. I need to find a full version of his show Monsters, because I used to love watching Lee Evans. He's fucking brilliant. I watched one today where he's going on about animals, and he's going on about dogs, and like dogs on wooden floors, and old women who love their dogs and are like, oh, since my husband left me, you're the only one that understands me, and you really do love me, you do. And there's the dog going, she'll give me my dinner in a minute. Any minute, she'll give me my dinner. I hope it's beef. And she's like, oh, you really do love me. He's like, I'm so hungry, I might have to lick my testicles. And then the old woman's like, oh, come here and give me a kiss. Not until I've licked my testicles. But yes, Lee Evans is brilliant. So find that out, Monsters. It's fucking brilliant. Anyway, back to the Formula 1 a little bit. I mean, obviously, we don't know a hell of a lot of what was going on down the rest of the field. Hulkenberg, not a great weekend for him. Sainz, not bad. Force Indias didn't have a great weekend. Sauber, though, once again, I mean, Ericsson out-qualified Leclerc. And
had a shocker of a race, though.
Yeah, had a shocker of a race. But I asked you a question earlier in the season, which was like, has Leclerc shown that he's got a bit of class, could finishing best of the rest quite often, blah, blah. Did he show a bit of class in qualifying too, when he was like, it's too wet, it's too wet, and then he goes, no, I'll go for one more lap?
Yeah. I mean, to be able to pull that lap time out when everyone else had given up on the track being quick enough to be able to improve it on times. I mean, even if he'd have missed out, it would have showed class that he never gives up.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you got the other drivers that got pushed out of the top 10 sitting there going, well, we did what we could. No, you didn't.
Magnussen.
You should have been out on the track. Yeah, you should have been out on the track trying to put a faster lap in.
Yeah.
If what didn't happen, it didn't happen. But you didn't even try and put a faster lap in.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, Gasly was out there trying it. Hartley was out there trying it. It didn't work for Hartley. But yeah, I mean, that's like the kind of sort of never give up style of acting. But it was just the way it happened as well, where his engineer's like, okay, well, box this lap then. He goes, actually, no, I'll just give it one more go. And he did it. I mean, it was good stuff. And that's one thing. It's like I say, when it rains in Brazil, it is chaos. Everybody knows about Hamilton and is it Glock? And that's what Brazil is like. Some of the best wet races have been at Brazil. But for some teams, Brazil is not a nice track for them, and for whatever reason, the Force India was not good there. I mean, Toro Rosso's didn't really get up to much. McLaren's, I mean, I don't even know what to say about McLaren anymore. I mean, I think Alonso says it all when, a few laps into the race, I think 10 laps into the race, and he tells his engineer, don't talk to me for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, might as well go and make a cup of coffee and sit back and watch the race, on his engineer.
Yeah.
But, like, what were baffling me as well were Stoffel Van Dorn, he'd done slightly a better job than Alonso during that race. But it's probably like the first time he's beat Alonso in donkeys. But he were happy about it. I wouldn't be happy driving for McLaren, no matter what, if I were coming away with 14th or wherever he came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No offence.
I don't know any fences, but I do know gates.
Bill Gates.
No offence. Sorry. Oh dear.
I just kind of, I'm just baffled.
You know he's going to
really
use that one tomorrow at work. Sorry, go on.
I'm just baffled by just the. I just can't believe McLaren are that shit.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help them. Obviously, they have pretty much given up on this year's car. That doesn't help them at all. But it. I mean, okay, teams in any given sport can have ups and downs. I mean, you look at Ferrari. Ferrari, before Schumacher was there, had been in a lull for ages. Ferrari, after Schumacher, they've had a couple of ups, with Raikkonen winning a championship and stuff like that. I mean, Raikkonen was the last...
Let's face it, though. After Raikkonen, when Alonso was there, he missed out on the championship twice by 2 points.
Yeah.
Twice. So they were there or thereabouts.
Yeah. But Ferrari is still classed as being in one of their biggest droughts in a long time. But so when James says, like, you find it baffling, I'm there with you. Because for them to be struggling, that's one thing. For them to be dead fucking last in qualifying and in races, and it's embarrassing.
I mean, it wouldn't be embarrassing if the field was closely packed together.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're like in race pace, they're 3 seconds a lap slower than not just the top cars, 3 seconds a lap slower than the Haas
or a Sauber.
Or a Sauber. That's how far off the pace they are in the race.
Yeah. It must be very disheartening being part of the McLaren crew. I mean, I don't know if you picked up on something that Verstappen said, I think it was before the weekend as well, saying that we're not lying and we have documented proof that our car is the best chassis on the grid. And that to me was a dig at McLaren from when they said, oh well, our car's the best chassis on the grid, it's just the power unit. Turns out bullshit.
Yeah, well, they admitted that was bullshit. That was that was said just to make. I don't understand this. They say that just to keep the crew motivated.
Yeah, but they also tried giving them Freddos, and that didn't work, did it?
No, but they've been better off coming out and saying our car is just not good enough. We need to be so much better in every single department.
Yeah,
and every single department needs to be pulling their finger out, because let's face it, if the aero department can try and find half a second somewhere, chassis can find half a second somewhere, the power unit can find half a second somewhere, then they're in the ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point. It's a little bit like with kids, and everyone's a winner. No, you have winners and you have losers, and if you're losing, it means that you need to do more to win.
I couldn't believe it when I was at school, though, and our school changed their sports day policy to non-competitive sports day. What the fuck is a non-competitive sports? I'll tell you what it is. It's everyone jumps through these hoops, but it doesn't matter if you do it quick enough or slow enough or how many hoops you jump through. It's basically just PE. Yeah. It's like, you need to have some sort of form of competition.
Yeah, and I mean that's where, I mean, give praise when praise is deserving, and motivate when it is required. But don't motivate in a way that's not going to benefit. If you're telling your engineers that their designs are really, really good when actually they're really, really shit, they're not going to be improving, are they?
No.
But if you tell them, look, I'm sorry, but your designs are not working, your designs are costing us 1 second a lap, then they're going to change stuff. And if they can't, you then find people that can. It's not a difficult equation to make. I mean, it's
what gets me though with Williams as well. So Williams is in a similar situation. When they were the second best team behind Mercedes, 4 years ago probably now. with that situation, they kept saying, "Oh, our problem is the fact that we don't have enough downforce. We've got a very slippery car in a straight line and no downforce, and we need to change our approach on how we develop the car because our approach at the moment is wrong." I think they need to go back to their original approach.
Yeah.
Because at least they were coming second and third, or third and fourth.
Yeah. Well, interesting that you mentioned Williams. I mean, you're right there, and change is happening at Williams. Rob Smedley has announced that he's leaving Williams at the end of the year. That, for me, is a big story.
Well, on that...
We'll get on to your other story in a moment. I'm leading you there, don't worry. Unless it's to do with Rob Smedley.
It was.
All right, okay. Go on then, I'll let you.
Well, it's to do with the Ferrari job for Rob Smedley. Because Rob Smedley used to be at Ferrari, but he was an engineer. He was Mass's head engineer. And then he went to take a step up at Williams and became their performance, head of performance engineer. So it was a step up. Well, the guy that's leaving Ferrari at the end of the year, I can't remember his name, he's basically the same sort of position as what Smedley was doing at Williams. Now, at the moment, Smedley's come out saying he wants to spend more time with his family, which could be just PR, and people can stop asking him questions and about where he's going to go next. Because, to be fair, the age he's at, I can't see him taking a few years out. No. Unless there's something in his contract that says he can't go directly to another team, I can see him going to Ferrari to take that role.
Well, did you see the interview that he did with Ted Kravitz?
I probably did, but I've slept since then.
Right. Basically, what he's said is that yes, he's leaving Williams at the end of this year. He's going to be taking some time to spend with the family. He has to. It's the gardening leave, right? He says, but in that time, I will continue to have the conversations that I'm already having with other teams.
Yeah.
Which means by the time Australia comes around, you should see me in somebody's garage. So he's got to take a bit of time off, which will work out as the off season, and during that time he'll be able to negotiate what he's going to do. Now he'll have the freedom of, because he isn't working for Williams, like once the season's over, his job's done, he can go home and he can chill out for a bit and spend time with his family. But it also frees him up to go and have conversations freely with wherever he wants, whether that be Williams, whether it be Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren. I mean, Rob Smedley into McLaren could be an interesting one, because I see Rob Smedley as almost like a young Ross Brawn.
Yeah. Yeah, he's come up through the ranks in a similar way as what Ross Brawn did.
I don't know what your thoughts are on Smedley, James.
I don't know. I'd be reluctant to go, oh yeah, he's great. I don't know. I know he's great on his team radio, but without working with the guy and knowing exactly what his input is doing to make the team better, I don't know.
So it's difficult to say with him being at Williams.
I have no clue if he's great at his job or if he's shit at his job.
Yeah, so you're basically questioning, are Williams's problems under his command his problem?
Well, I know that he's not like in charge of aerodynamics, but
I believe his position to be kind of ahead of above that. He's in control of performance, which basically covers everything to do with aerodynamics.
Well, in terms of performance,
to get the car.
One at a time, Steve. Let James speak.
In terms of performance, I don't think he's done a great job then.
That's what I would say. If you're the head of performance and your team's performance has been shit, the question would have to be asked. If I was going to be employing him, it would be, how can you prove to me that Williams's issues are not of your doing, It's a little bit like same with football. You got the football manager. He may not be the one that gets to choose who is signed by the team, but he's the one that has to make what he's got perform. And if they don't perform, it's him that gets it in the neck. So how would that be different with Rob Smedley? So I could imagine a team like Ferrari being a bit hesitant, but then they do know it. Mercedes, I don't see that happening. But maybe it could, because Williams have had the Mercedes deal for quite some time. So maybe that is his next step. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at McLaren, because McLaren are a shambles and they need...
a shambles?
Well, well, I mean, obviously, I'm not inside there. I don't know what everything's like. But just thinking back to that documentary that we saw about them, it exposed McLaren being just as much of a shambles as Honda. And I don't think it's necessarily got any better. I mean, I like Zach Brown, but I don't like what's happening with McLaren. So they need some structure putting into that place. So maybe that could be a way for Smedley to go. Now, what I was going to try and lead Steve towards was, Steve, you sent me a picture last night. I actually snapshotted it earlier in the day, but didn't send it to you two because I forgot. But I was going to mention it. So, do you want to tell everybody what this picture was that you sent me?
I will. I'm just going to get the picture up now to make sure I don't misquote myself. Robert Kubica, which however you want to pronounce it, will be announced as Williams' second driver for 2019 later this week, according to Automoto und Sport, story from Germany. So according to some tabloid in Germany, is signing for next year. It'll be announced later this week. But like you said, though, Dave, last podcast, if they're going to have him, they need to announce it sooner rather than later. Yeah.
I mean,
so I know if it doesn't come out, then it's not happening. But,
yeah. I mean, we went for a drive the other day, and I said to you then, I says, I've been hearing rumours that Kubica is going to be announced at Williams soon, but I'm not convinced, because if it was going to be Kubica, I think they'd announce it. They wouldn't wait. They wouldn't hesitate. They just go, it's going to be Kubica, because that'll bring sponsors in, that'll bring money in, and it'll get the ball rolling. Now the rumours, obviously, they're out into the media now. They're into the public. So maybe it is going to happen. Maybe they're working things out. I want it to happen, but
I'm thinking that maybe they're doing it later this week, because with Abu Dhabi being the last Grand Prix, they do have the tyre test after Abu Dhabi, which they need to announce which driver is going to be driving the car. So maybe they'll be able to put Robert Kubica in the car for that tyre test.
Maybe. But here's a question for you then, James.
Yeah.
We all want to see Kubica in Formula 1 again. Do we really want to see him in a shit Williams?
I said the other week you couldn't pay me to drive that car. I mean, I know George Russell is going there and he's all like, yeah, I'm going to be in Formula 1. How many times have we seen people turn up in a shit piece of equipment and then fall out of F1?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to drive a really shit car, you need to drag it and make something out of it, just like what Senna did.
Just like Alonso has.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like Ricardo did in his first drive for Virgin, whatever it was.
Yeah. You've got to really, really show what you're made of. And I'd say that's more pressure than anything. But it's one of them where you've got to just deliver, and if you don't deliver, you're out.
Yeah.
And you don't get a second chance.
Unless your name's Fiat.
Because no offence, as great as all these people are that are coming through, next year there's just going to be another one that's going to come through. So, I mean, Hamilton was very, very fortunate that in his first 2 years he had a belter of a car.
Yeah.
But then in 2009, once again, it were an absolute piece of shit. And he still dragged it round and got some decent results in it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with someone like Hamilton. I mean, you look at the lower teams. I mean, okay, Sauber they're currently almost like the Leicester City from when they won the championship. The season that Sauber are having, I don't think anybody could have seen this coming within the last 4 or 5 years. So for what they've done is phenomenal, but probably 99% of their performance has been the current date Ferrari engine. It's been massive, so props to the FIA for implementing that particular rule for the customer cars, because that was wrong for me. Yeah, you can have our engine, but it'll be last year's engine, which is shit compared to what we're running. That's not right. So I mean, and not only that, I mean, Ferrari have kind of shot themselves in the foot in a way, because what Ferrari have done this year is shown that with their engine, even Sauber can be in best of the rest. Now that's great promotion for Ferrari.
Yeah.
So they've been shooting themselves in the foot for the last 10 years from going, yeah, you can have our old engines, they're shit. Whereas actually, you know what, if we give you our modern engine, you might do really well, and it's good for us and all.
In the qualifying in Brazil, the commentators kept going on about how the fact that in the top 10 there was 5 Ferrari engines.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. You know, that just shows you that Ferrari will benefit from having all the positive press in that one.
Yep. And have you noticed as well that over the last 2 races, the amount of projected hope for Honda has been going up for Red Bull?
I don't know if it's just hype though. When they first joined McLaren, it was all hype. This engine's going to be a race-winning engine. It might take us a year, but we're going to get there. We'll be outperforming.
Yeah, don't look for us at the beginning of the season, but watch out for the end.
Yeah, because at the end we might be on fire. I mean, I don't know though. I think Red Bull may have just timed it perfectly, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get their engine right at some point. It might still. I got a feeling that it might still be a season too soon. But I think with the car that Red Bull have got, they're still not going to be any worse off. They're still going to be the 3rd best team.
Yeah,
even if the Honda's shit.
I mean, the Red Bull with the current Renault engine in it, Verstappen won in Mexico, should have won in Brazil. McLaren, same Renault engine, shit. Renault struggling to finish. So Red Bull, if the Red Bull can do that with an engine that is underpowered, is unreliable, then I mean, I think if they had the current Honda engine in, they might be able to do more than what they're doing at the moment. It might blow up just as much, but it'd be interesting. It would have been interesting. And hopefully next season will be really interesting. I mean, I in a way I hope that next season is nothing like this season, in that I think it's great that one team hasn't just ran away with it this year. I think it's great that there's been 2 teams and then Red Bull that are in the mix now and again. So having 3 teams battle for wins is better than just having one. Yeah. But that gap from 6th to 7th can't be sustained. Because if you've got that gap, you may as well go, you know what, Ferrari, McLaren and Red Bull, how about you all have 5 cars each and we'll get the other people to race on their own in a different race. Because you
need to have at least 6 cars, 6 teams be able to fight for a championship.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had 6 teams fighting for a championship, you're going to have 2 teams that are probably going to have no hope. But even them ones that you think are going to have no hope, they can still get podiums.
Yeah.
It'd make it so fucking good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just even watching that race of Steve's Racing League, that just showed what Formula One's missing. Yeah, you might not be the greatest. You might not be in the greatest car, but if you're good enough, you can get up there. You can show what you can do. And unfortunately, we're in a moment now with Formula One where you can't show what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, that race footage even shows you if you're in a noddy car, you can still win.
For anyone that doesn't know about that, quick plug for Steve's Racing League, Dynamic GT League on YouTube and on Facebook. Check it out. Racing League on Gran Turismo Sport. So yeah, check it out. Great action. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's the gaming world. The gaming world and real life are never going to be the same. I mean, let's face it. If you're playing Call of Duty, you can die 20 times in a match and keep fighting. That's not like real life. And racing, okay, it's a bit the same, but the core requirements are similar. You want action, and that's it. From your racing, you want action. It doesn't matter if it's at the front or at the back, but you want action. And if you're struggling to get action all the way across your grid, you've got a problem. And that's what Formula One's problem is. There is not enough action. I mean, I don't know if either of you have picked up on this, and I think it's just a UK Sky intro thing. There's one bit of their intro that I only recently picked up on, like 4 or 5 races ago, but it really pisses me off. When their intro is playing, they have snippets of things that people say, like Damon Hill says something or Brundle had said something from when they were live. And Anthony Davidson, who I really like, says something that really pisses me off. What? And it goes like this. This is the place for the best overtakes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no, it's not. Now, he obviously, in that phrase, must have been talking about a track or a particular corner, but they've worked it into the intro, and I'm just like, well, no, it's not, because Formula 2 has better action and overtakes than Formula 1. So, yeah, you're pissing me off a bit with that.
Yeah, they're trying to use it as in general, Formula 1 is better for overtakes.
Yeah. But it's not. Unfortunately, it really isn't. See more overtakes in the dole queue on a Thursday. I also noticed I've got into the frame as well recently. Brundle's just said, "I'll tell you what." 4 times he said it in the first 5 laps. Well, he does. Well, I think Vettel does. That's why he had a hissy fit at the weighbridge. Okay, so we mentioned about Kubica. I mean, obviously, I would love to see Kubica back in Formula 1, and I can't wait. I hope he does get it. I really do. But I hope that the Williams isn't a piece of fucking shite either. Okay,
I do have something else.
Go on then.
It's going back to the Max Verstappen thing. The fact that he was pushing around Ocon in the weighing room when they were weighing each other after the race. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the stewards...
Yeah, they're giving him community service.
Yeah, 2 days community service. He's got 6 months to complete it. 2 days of public service.
I'd make him clean a racetrack with a toothbrush.
To be fair... What he'll probably be in is promoting the sport and going and signing autographs. That's probably what he'll end up being.
Go on, James. Yeah. You were going to say something, and then Steve keeps talking over you.
No.
I don't talk over myself.
Yeah, this is it. We never get to see what this community service is. We could see it and watch him get humiliated. We'd probably have a bit of fun, but we don't see it, so we're not bothered anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably got to go and attend a driver awareness course. I mean, okay, it's not right that he's gone over to the guy and pushed him, but to be fair, he could have done a hell of a lot more. I mean, I said earlier on, I don't condone violence, but... Well, I come from a footballing background where if you piss me off in a game, I'm gonna fucking kick you. and I'll do it in a way that it won't be a foul, and you'll know that I've done it. But that, okay, some people may say that's cruel and that's offensive, but it's like, okay, if you pissed off Vinnie Jones, what do you think would have happened to you? You'd fucking know about it. I mean, Senna punched Eddie Irvine because Irvine pissed him off. But I'm not saying violence is good, it's not, but yeah. I mean, I know a few people online have been going on about Ocon's cheesy smile while Verstappen was pushing him and taking the piss out of him, but when you're in that situation, you never know what's going to happen.
Conspiracy theories and all that.
Yeah.
Do you know what lap it happened on?
Don't tell me, 44.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Yeah, lap 44.
Well, I wondered whether to bring this up or not, about whether... I mean, I actually wrote it down. As soon as I saw that it was Ocon, I wrote down, oh, Mercedes conspiracy. And then I was actually thinking, I don't think he would. And then Kravitz came on the commentary and said that he's not that kind of person. But I have been thinking about it for the last few days. But I'm interested to know what you two think. So, hint of a conspiracy in there, James?
Nah.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have done it deliberately.
I don't. And one of the reasons I don't
But
think...
we may be wrong.
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe I'm just a bit too kind
Deluded?
here. Yeah, that's the word, deluded. I would like to think that if Ocon had done that deliberately to benefit Mercedes, then it would have harmed his reputation within Mercedes, because they would not have wanted that.
No.
It's a little bit like Toto Wolff when he was asked, have you already got the championship t-shirts? He says, I hope not, and if we have, I do not want to know about it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of mentality, or approaching Honda and saying, look, we know you're having problems with your engine, we can help you if you want. Now, that doesn't benefit Mercedes in any way, shape or form, other than if you're running at your best and we beat you, then we can't be questioned as to how good we are. So that goes against Ocon doing it on purpose for the benefit of Mercedes, with Mercedes' knowledge. Now, whether he did it all on his own intentionally, we would never know, unless in a couple of years we end up with another PK Junior situation. But I don't think it wouldn't have helped him regarding Mercedes.
No.
Okay, you got any other F1 news that you wanted to mention?
I haven't.
I don't think I have.
I do want to know how we got on with the predictions, though.
Well, we'll get on to that in a minute. I have got... James, you're into your Twitter, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are, okay. Now, Mark Webber, after the race, he put a tweet out saying, mental that, a back marker, nails the leader of the race at that level. Total brain fade. And then Guido van der Garde replies to him saying, I already said sorry, mate, that was 5 years ago.
I'll tell you, Guido van der Garde, he's got a fucking sense of humour.
He has. He is known as Guido Bantergaard as well. He has got a sense of humour. Okay, Jenson Button has won the 2018 Super GT title in Japan.
Nicely done.
Don't want to know that. And that's about it for the sort of F1 news that I've got. Other than McLaren have announced that they will be competing in the 103rd running of the Indy 500 next year with Fernando Alonso at the wheel. That will be a race that I will want to see. Okay, something else for you. Pietro Fittipaldi, grandson of two-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, has joined Haas as their test driver.
Okay.
And I think that may be... Have you heard about the Renault dissing Max Verstappen before Brazil?
No.
Right. You know how Red Bull have been slagging off Renault and their engines for quite some time, number of years. Well,
Yes.
Renault have kind of been fighting back, right? So here's one example. A party atmosphere this is something that they posted on their website, I believe. A party atmosphere, this is talking about Brazil, I think, is one similarity between Mexico and Brazil, with another being the sheer volume of people living in the two host cities, with a combined population of 20 million, which may or may not be equivalent to the number of times Max Verstappen has moaned about something this season. Yeah. So there's a bit of a fight going on about that. What else is there? As much as you hate Stoffel Van Dorn, did you see the picture of his girlfriend that I sent you both the other day?
Oh, she looked bony.
Wow. If you don't like much meat on your chicken wings, James, then yeah, you would think she was bony. She's very attractive, though. Okay, I think that's just about me done with the F1 news that I have. Okay, so while I get ready for the to see how we get on with the predictions, Steve, would you like to update us all on when the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is?
Oh, you would ask me when I'm not ready to. Right, hang on, I shall let you know. That will be Friday the 23rd it starts. So it's not this weekend, it's the following weekend.
Okay, 10 days time then. Right then, okay, so predictions. I shall pop them up on the screen. I will send you both a picture. I don't really know what to say about the predictions this week other than I had an absolute fucking shocker. And if I did, so did somebody else. Okay, let me just get this to send to these two. Right. Okay, so I've sent it to you two. So, looking at it then, predictions. Steve went for Hamilton for pole position, and he gets the point for that. James went for Verstappen. Unfortunately, that was never on the cards, unless Ricardo had given Verstappen a slipstream, and I did wonder whether they were going to do that or not. Okay, I went for Hamilton, so I got a point for pole position, and then surprisingly Steve went for Hamilton taking the win, gambling on Hamilton getting his first ever win in a season after confirming a championship. James, go on.
I just went, yep.
Alright. James was very unlucky, chose Max Verstappen as the winner. I very nearly gave you the bonus point for that, James, because he should have won it. But I didn't want to get done for favouritism. And I went for Bottas. I honestly thought that Mercs were going to annihilate everybody at this race, and Hamilton would manufacture a way for Bottas to win. Obviously not, so it'll have to happen in Abu Dhabi. Okay, podiums. This was an interesting one. Steve went for Hamilton, Bottas and Kimi Raikkonen, so he gets 1 point for Hamilton and Kimi. James went for Verstappen, Hamilton and Vettel, so he gets 2 points, one for Verstappen and Hamilton, and those two he would have predicted in the right order had Verstappen won, with a Ferrari third as well. And I went for Bottas, Hamilton and Vettel, so I only get the 1 point. First to crash out, and I don't know how the fuck you've done this, Steve. There's crashes every fucking race, and then the two where you've said no one's crashed out.
Yep. I don't know, I just thought it was the nature of the circuit.
James said it would be Grosjean. To be fair, I think he kept his nose out of trouble in most of the race, didn't he, James?
Apart from turn 2 with Ericsson.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Bit of a whack there with its side pod, but apart from that.
Yep. And I went for Hulkenberg, and he didn't crash out, but he didn't make it to the end. Okay, best of the...
Sainz almost crashed him out.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that was a good battle between the two Renaults at the start.
That were better race watching than two Renaults.
Yeah, and I do know that both of them have come out afterwards or post-race and said we had a really good fun battling each other. And I mean, okay, I took the piss out of Gasly earlier, but when he was on the radio to his engineer, he was saying, "Why don't you just let us race? If he's faster than me, he'll overtake me." And I kind of agree with that. It's like, if you're faster, pass him.
Yeah, if he's fast enough, he should be able to get past.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it about Perez all season, and I've been hoping the last few races that Ocon will be ahead of Perez and to see if Perez keeps it going, but they've not been anywhere near. So yeah. Anyway, okay, on to best of the rest. Steve and James both went for Hulkenberg, who didn't finish, and I went for Sainz. I mean, Sainz wasn't far away, but to be fair, Leclerc did it again. Best of the rest. I mean, lonely race for him, but the car's good and he's got ability.
The car's good, but he's just brilliant.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait for next season just to see him up against Vettel, and I want him to destroy Vettel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, obviously, we only know what the commentary teams will say for the TV channel we watch, and they're the people that we listen to that are at the track. And when they're people saying, "I can't wait to see what he can do in a Ferrari because what he's doing in this Sauber is brilliant," yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Definitely. I mean, I would love it if Leclerc jumped in that car next season and won the championship. Because where's Vettel going to go then? What's he going to do?
Yeah. But also, just on something to do with that, I mean, not necessarily to do with that, but more to do with Robert Kubica at Williams. What happens if he jumps into the Williams and all of a sudden that Williams, without changing anything on the car, is 2 seconds a lap faster?
Yeah.
Just to go to show that Stroll and Sorokin are that shit that it's nothing to do with the car.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It could happen. I mean, people used to talk about the Mansell effect. He'd jump in a car and drive it a second faster than anyone thought it was capable, just because of his physical strength and ability. Now, you don't see that so much nowadays, but if Fernando Alonso jumped in Stoffel Van Dorn's car, would Fernando Alonso achieve the same lap time he got in his own car? If the answer is yes, then he's a better driver than Stoffel Van Dorn.
Just nip in for a wee for 1 minute.
Okie doke. Okay, on to the last predictions that we made. Rain in the race. Steve said no. A 50-50 chance. It was fucking close. Me and James both said yes. So I had a shocker, which means, well, I don't know. The way James's season has gone so far this season on predictions, James has done really well getting 2 points. I've had a fucking shocker getting 2 points. And Steve scores fucking 6.
Thank you.
Yeah, which means you now have a 7-point lead over me, and I've got a 7-point lead over James.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let's see. It's not possible for James to beat Steve now. I could if I got every prediction right and Steve got every prediction wrong. But if James got every prediction right and I got every prediction wrong, James could pass me. So still a lot to play for on
James isn't going to get everyone right though, is he? Come on.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Miracles do happen. Now, obviously, we are going to have to make our predictions for Abu Dhabi for the last race of the season. So, for anyone that's listening in that wants to make any suggestions for something we can have as a prediction, feel free to mention it in the YouTube chat, and we'll get onto that in a few moments.
How about having something a bit random that's not necessarily relevant to the race? Will Robert Kubica be confirmed as the driver before the Abu Dhabi lights out?
Oh, you know what? Maybe, because I think my answer to that would be Yes, and not only that, he'll race in Abu Dhabi.
Ooh. That would be interesting if that happened.
That would be interesting. Would that happen? I don't know. But
It'd be good if it did.
yeah, it would. And it would be, I mean, to be fair, if you were at Williams and you waited until the young driver test after Abu Dhabi, you can't take those lap times into consideration because the track is more rubbered in when they drive on it than the weekend that's just happened. So you can't really compare the lap times. But you put Robert Kubica in the car and see if he all of a sudden gets into Q2 when the others have struggled to do that all season, or whose
car would you put him in, Stroll's or Sorokin's?
It don't matter, neither of them are driving next season. Whichever one you can kick out with the least legal ramification. That is honestly, that is what I would do. Actually, I would look at it and go, right, how much would it cost us to kick out Sorokin? Right, X amount. Right, how much would it cost us to kick out Stroll? Right, which one's cheaper? Right, you fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean, the Williams have got nothing to lose by doing that, other than a bit of money maybe, and everything to gain, because they could get a direct answer straight away as to whether, in the race situations, yes, the car is shit, but having a better driver drive it was better for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see if James has got anything to weigh in on that. But he's old and he's not having a piss at the minute.
No,
all right, you're back. So yeah, did you hear any of that, James?
Yeah, I personally think that Williams is just a piece of shit. I think even if you put Kubica in it won't know what else to be done. Fella, do you need a wee? You alright? Yeah, okay.
You'll give me dinner in a minute.
Just made a noise like, ooh! So I thought, oh, that's a signal. But yeah, Williams is a piece of shit, just like McLaren. It's just such a shame. I mean, but if they don't turn it around soon, both them teams, if them two teams are not performing by 2021, there's something massively fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Because 2021's the big reset. McLaren should have never gone away from Mercedes. Williams are with Mercedes and they can't even fucking do it. It's just like, it's just mind-boggling how can an entire Formula One team go from being on the podium more often than not for about 7 years to then near the back nearly every single race.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
Well, the changes for next year, a lot of people are saying the changes that are coming for next year, just because it's fundamentally it's the front wing that's changing, but because of the front wings changing, the whole rest of the car has to change aerodynamically to adapt to the way the front wing is going to disperse the air. And a lot of people are saying that is actually going to be more of a change to the car, fundamental change to the car and the way it works, than what's happening in 2020 and 2021, whenever it is. Because the engine now is not going to change in the future. That big change that was supposed to be happening in 2021 is not actually that much of a big change anymore.
That is ridiculous. I mean, you look at Formula One, and right now it's in. No offence, it's brilliant that most Mercedes and Ferrari are so close, and Red Bull are also in there. But in terms of a spectator sport, no offence, it's shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's probably going to change in 2021 is the way they govern the rules on the sport, as in grid penalties, how many engine components and all that sort of stuff. So it's not necessarily going to be the performance of the car that's going to change much. Because this front wing change is being brought forward to next year, that's the main fundamental change that would have happened in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, something that Formula One have to consider, all right, and if they haven't got people considering it, if you're listening to this, Ross Brawn, consider this, motherfucker. And I'm not calling you a motherfucker, I'm calling the situation a motherfucker. Although you probably are a motherfucker if you've got a wife and she's had children, she is a mother and you fuck her. Anyway. Yeah, sorry, Ross. He's got a sense of humour, he'll be alright. You can guarantee he's had sex in an F1 garage, let's put it that way. You know, we would have done if we worked in an F1 team. Strange. That sounds like... Sounds like what, James? Experience?
Oh, no, it just sounds like a couple of gear mechanics.
No, I don't mean
that's a big tool.
No, that's not what I meant. I totally lost. Right, okay, yeah. We mentioned earlier, James, about you when you said to me and Steve last night about there's more action in Steve's Racing League than there has been in the whole Formula One season, right? Esports is growing, and it's grown since we started our podcast. When we first started our podcast, I do remember talking about esports and the McLaren Young Driver programs and different things like that. Well, esports
the world's fastest gamer.
World's fastest gamer. And esports is getting bigger. You've got the current F1 2018 esports series, which is being broadcast live on Sky Sports. And if Formula One ends up in a situation where F1 fans are sitting there going, you know what, I enjoy watching these kids race these computer games more than the real stuff, you're fucked. It's a simple, you are fucked, because it's cheaper to watch somebody race a video game than it is to either subscribe to a TV broadcaster or pay to go to a race weekend to see minimal action. And I know that Ross Brawn, part of his parameters of what he's trying to implement is to improve the racing, to improve the action. He's on the right direction, but if they don't do it quick enough, they're going to lose a lot of their fan base, because people want to see action, they want to see crashes, they don't want to see people get hurt. But if you've got enjoyable action and a voice you can listen to telling you what's happening, you can watch it for free on YouTube. Yeah,
indeed.
Now, that's not to say that the F1 games are any good, because they're not. I have completely given up on them. But the future of Formula One could be in the virtual world.
Could be.
There were straight away, the drivers in the post-race press conference were asked about the future of Formula One, and they were kind of, I've got to say, it were a bit of a weird question to ask after a Grand Prix. It were like, I don't know, it was just odd, and all the drivers were like, no, I don't really care, because they were just like, I've just got out of a Grand Prix, I don't care about this question.
Well, it was asked a few months back as well. Kimi Raikkonen's response to it was, well, I don't have any say on what happens in Formula One, I just drive the cars, so what's the point in asking me that question?
Yeah, and that's the response he gave again. It was like, why are you asking this? I don't really care.
Yeah. There's nothing he can do about it anyway. But, I mean, it's the world that we live in. Technology is taking over. I mean, given the choice,
maybe we should do a separate podcast we should all watch the esports final race and do a podcast just on that race.
Maybe. Well, I don't know if I could bring myself to watch that game. I've lost so much respect and patience for Codemasters.
No, it's absolutely awful. If I was Ross Brawn, I'd be like, we cannot show this as a representation.
I mean, right. I mean, this is how bad it is, right? Us three, we love F1 and we love playing our racing video games. Not one of us has got Formula 1. And it's not because we can't afford it or we've never had them. We had them every year, brand new, year after. And it was the game itself that put us off playing the game. It wasn't the sport, it was the physical game itself, which was so shit and getting worse and worse every year. Okay, graphics improved and stuff like that, but the actual workings of the game...
Graphics improved over a span of from 2010. When were the last game that we played? Were it 16 or 17? It must have been 16.
I
Seventeen.
didn't race 17. 16
No.
was the one I raced. 17 was the one you two did.
6 years of buying Codemasters games every single year on release. The graphics were every single year. It was the same fucking thing, just a new shape of a car.
Yeah.
It was just dog shit.
I mean,
But to be fair, 2015 wasn't bad to play, right? But 16 and 17 just got worse and worse. I don't want to say it got worse and worse. It didn't improve. 16 was shit, and 17 came out and had the same faults. So when 18 comes out, it's like, well, what's the point if they're not going to be fixing the faults from the previous game?
yeah.
And from what I've seen on YouTube of 18, it's the same as 16 and 17. You know, still got safety car issues, and I understand that racing leagues still can't use the safety car because of the issues.
Can't
with
have
it. I'm not gonna
formation laps.
Yeah, can't have formation lap. Have problems doing live broadcast because of being in the lobby as a spectator and being in the way on the grid, or not being able to see it, or just bizarre shit.
Can't save your replays.
Yeah, but also desyncing as well on that game seems to be worse than any other game I've ever seen.
It's fucking it's dreadful. It really is dreadful. Yeah. But I mean, one perfect example of it, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before, perfect example of how bad the Codemasters games are. If you race on a pad, you probably won't give a shit. But if you race on a wheel, then you should give a shit, right? If you drive a real car, if that steering wheel moves, you know about it, because your hands will move, because you'll hold on to the steering wheel. So when you're playing an F1 Codemasters game, and on the screen the steering wheel is moving, if you don't feel that in your steering wheel, it has zero effect, then something is fundamentally fucking wrong. Because if you can't feel all the movements the steering wheel's doing, what feel is it giving you? It ain't fucking right.
And just to explain that a bit more, when we were practicing for the 2017 season, you were being my engineer, watching what I was doing over like a what's it called, screen share kind of thing, where you can see my screen. You kept saying to me, stop wiggling your steering wheel through the corners. And I'm like, I'm not. Graphically it's doing that, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So
if it's graphically doing that, why am I not feeling it? Why is it not forcing that same movement into my hands?
Exactly. So, I mean, there's a big long list of stuff that's wrong with F1. I mean, it'd be interesting to do a podcast on those races, but I don't think I could bring myself to do it on Codemasters. Something I thought about doing sometime is maybe whether we might be able to do a live podcast while a race is on, so we can talk about the race while we're watching it. That'd work for me, but it might not work for Steve or for James, given.
That would work for me. I have thought about that in the past, but yeah.
I could probably work a way around that. It would depend. It would depend on a number of things. One, if my little brother's watching it on Sky Go, I don't have access to it. So it was on Channel 4. Then I mean, it'd be good if it was like the last race of the season. We could do it, but I'm not sure whether. I mean, there's also the family situation as well. I'd have to make sure that my family's all right with me doing it.
Just send them out for the day.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. But yeah,
actually, I'm just going to check what time that race is on. Let's have a look. Oh, That's not my calendar. That's my calendar. Okay, so Sunday the 25th. Oh, that's my daughter's birthday, so there's a problem.
Yeah, you're not doing it that day, then.
Actually, sorry, her birthday's on the 24th. Get the date right.
Oh, Steve.
Oh, yeah, 1:10 start. But with it being my daughter's birthday weekend, we probably would be doing something.
Yeah. If I remember rightly, last year you did as well, didn't you? I think we had to watch the race late. I could be wrong.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, should we get on to our predictions for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix then?
Might as well.
Okay, we need two to add on to our normal ones. I mean, you mentioned one about whether Kubica will be announced or not. We could do that, or we could do anything else. So you can have a think about it while we give you answers. So, Steve, who do you think will take pole position in Abu Dhabi?
Hamilton.
Okay, James.
Verstappen.
Ooh, I don't think that car's going to work around there.
Well, it will, but it hasn't got the straight line speed in qualifying. I don't think.
3 is where they meet him at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting in Brazil that they were losing 2 tenths in the first sector, 2 tenths in the final sector, but were gaining 3 tenths in the middle sector. So, yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. I'm going to go for Kimi Raikkonen.
Interesting.
Okay, winner, Steve.
Oh, I can't bring myself to say anyone in a Ferrari. I'm going to have to say Hamilton.
Okay. James?
Winner. God, I were about to say Rosberg then.
Good luck with that one.
Really. I tell you what, fairy tale.
Fernando Alonso.
Daniel Ricciardo's last Red Bull race.
Ooh. Interesting call. Okay, I'm going to go for Kimi. Pole and the win. This is where James might end up overtaking me and getting every single one fucking right. Okay, Steve, your podium 3.
Hamilton,
Yep.
Max, Vettel.
Ooh. James, your podium 3.
Danny Rick. Hamilton, Bell.
Okay, and I'm going to go Kimi, Ricciardo, Verstappen.
Do I get a bonus point if
No.
No.
if Ricciardo doesn't finish ahead of Max? Because about halfway through the season I said he wouldn't.
No.
Oh.
James was right. No. James gets a bonus point for being right. Okay, first to crash out.
Max Verstappen.
Ooh.
Ericsson.
Okay, and I am going to go for Hamilton.
Really?
Yeah, he'd never won a race after confirming a championship. He's done that.
Until this year, yeah.
And so now he's going to crash out. Probably
You are going to get 0 points, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to need 2 more predictions. I mean, I must admit, after seeing the Brazil race, I am wondering whether we should reintroduce Dick of the Day.
Yeah, but there could quite easily be no Dick of the Day.
True. So we need something to make a prediction on them.
We'll have Dick of the Day if we can't think of two other decent ones.
Okay.
Because there's what lap will the first VSC or safety car be?
I know one. How many times will Martin Brundle say, "I'll tell you what," during the race?
I'm going to say none because he's going to fall ill and not turn up.
That's not very nice.
No. I'm changing that. I'm going to say 3.
3. Okay, James.
17.
Cheers, Steve. 17.
I'd already wrote my answer down. I wrote 11. So we've got 3,
No.
11, and 17. Closest wins. Right? Closest gets the point.
Okay. Can I change my answer then?
No.
To 10?
No. Fuck off. Okay, so we need one more. I mean, VSC or safety car is an interesting one because Abu Dhabi is a track where you could get it. I mean, it's something in the final sector, you're getting it.
Yeah. Or if a car breaks down halfway down one of the long straights, you're getting it.
Okay. VSC or safety car lap. Go on then, Steve.
1.
Lap 1. James?
Lap 2.
Okay. I'm going to go...
You can't go lap 3 and then say closest winner.
Why? I'm going to say none.
Oh.
There won't be one. The fucking will be. It's going to be Verstappen on pole. Ricciardo wins the race. Ricciardo, Hamilton, Vettel on the podium. Verstappen's going to be the first one to crash out, which will be on lap 2. That will cause a virtual safety car. And Brundle, having listened to this, will feel sorry for James and sit there at the start going, "I tell you what, 17 fucking times."
I'll tell you what. Here. David, I tell you what. And they'll go, Ted, I tell you what.
Hey, Paul, I'll tell you what as well, because you weren't listening earlier. I have just thought of something else actually from the race. Did you notice how angry Otmar Safnauer got on the team radio when Crofty and Brundle were interviewing him, going, "Oh, your guy fucked up there, didn't?" No. He was not.
Yeah, he had to defend his driver though, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was still getting pissed off. It was kind of like Crofty was going, "Yeah, your guy's a dick." "No, he's not." "Your guy's a dick." "No, he's not."
That's almost. We're almost as good as the one with Christian Horner earlier on. Yeah, where he went, "Oh, here he comes! It's going to be a brilliant overtake." "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. Oh dear. Oh, right. Guys, if it's 2 weeks or 10 days until the next Grand Prix weekend, we are going to have to work out whether we're going to do a podcast next week or take a break. I wouldn't have a problem taking a break. Excuse me, we could do a podcast after the weekend. That's not a problem with me, but we shall work that out. I was trying to think if there was anything else F1 related that we wanted to get through before we finish off.
Can't think of anything.
I can't think of much, no.
Okay.
And I'm quite happy to take a break.
Okay.
But, I probably just I just wanted to have a little bit more information about Steve's Racing League and how that's going. I know it's not F1 related, but
I think it's going very well. Seats are filling up. We've still got, I think, 1 seat available. We've got a driver that's not attended, so there's a possibility of maybe 2 seats available. But the race in itself is unbelievably close. The way the league is set up for close racing, it is working, and all the drivers seem to be loving it. and praising the league for how competitive it is. I mean, to just put it into some sort of context, if you're a noob and you come to race, you've got a chance of being competitive. If you are experienced gamer and racing, you've got a chance of winning it. But there's nothing, there's no certainties because of how close it is. It's not like, yes, I'm the best, I'm going to run away with it. It's not like that because of how close it is. And if you're a noob, you're not necessarily going to be stuck at the back because with having weak boost on, it closes the pack up.
Yeah.
And it is a good race. And I actually commented on, there was somebody on Facebook on one of the GT Sport groups saying, I run a league and it's full of novices that are on pads. Is there any way I can lock out wheels from coming because we want it to be a novice league? And his problem was that because I said, what's the problem with people with wheels? He says, they're too good, they're too fast. So I suggested, why not put weak boost on, make things a little bit closer? And he says, no, it'll just turn into a crash fest. I think our league has proved that it won't be a crash fest.
Yeah.
Because as long as the drivers respect each other, if you don't have a bit of coming together, you just wait for that other driver. And because weak boost is on, you've got a chance of catching back up a bit with the pack. And it doesn't have to be a crash fest. It's good racing. And the amount of times I've looked in my mirror and I've seen 3 or 4 cars wide down a straight is unreal. Sometimes I've been in the middle of 3 cars and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean the last race. Touching on it, the last race was very interesting because there's a part of the track that's a bit like Spa's old bus stop chicane, but in the opposite direction. But it's a very, very fast section of corners. It's the kind of section of corners where you could go side by side through there, but you're gonna talk over me now as well.
I was going to say it's more like Monaco swimming pool section, but pretty much flat out.
Yeah. So anyway, you can go side by side through there. It's a bit risky, and you're going to have to slow down a bit, which means any cars behind you going flat out might hit you. But what impressed me, and now that we're praising your league and Ray's league, it's going to be a crash fest this week.
Probably.
Yeah, because I'll be turning up.
Yeah, you have no idea how close I was last night, James, working on my livery. I got bored. I was trying to think of brand names, right? And I thought, I wonder what it brings up if I search for anything to do with James. First thing, hashtag blame James. I was like, right, that's going on my card. I didn't do it. I didn't put it on though. I thought I don't want to upset him. I won't put it on, but I so nearly did. But anyway, yeah. So with this bus stop chicane bit, the amount of times that drivers were 2-3 wide approaching that corner, and I was doing the comment, and I'm thinking, don't do it, and none of them did. They just perfectly slotted single file through the corners, continued their battle. The racing has been, it's been competitive.
Not everybody got through there clean though, did they, Dave?
I don't know what you mean, mate. I don't know what you mean.
I'm sure I saw a Aston Martin spinning in there at one point.
Nah, it's your imagination, mate. It's your imagination.
And it said, "I tell you what," on the back of it.
Yeah, it had a dodgy sat.
Actually, it did say that. And then what else did it say?
I'm not saying. If anyone wants to know, you'll have to go and watch the video. Yeah, the racing has been very competitive and very exciting. What I will say though is, I mean, I know that people in the past, like you mentioned about the weak boost, and I know James has kind of questioned the weak boost as well. But, I mean, I've won 2 of the 4 races. Of the 2 races I've won, I think both of them I had quite a gap to second place. And I can honestly say, having watched the races back, I would have much have preferred to have been in the pack. I'm not saying
when you're in the pack, you don't want to be in it.
That's true, but the excitement level of being in a pack of cars is brilliant. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing like winning races, but at the same time, it's not the most entertaining. It's a little bit like Lewis Hamilton says that yes, he loves winning races and he wants to win races, but he wants it to be a race. So for example, the last race where I didn't win, some other knobhead did.
Me.
Yeah, that race for me was more enjoyable because that one was a little more of a challenge than the two I'd won.
Well, even for me, winning it wasn't a straightforward win because every time you pit stop, you're right back in the middle of that pack, and you've got to work your way out of it to get back to the lead again. Even though you've got fresher tyres than the guys in the pack, and you can just about get through them. But unless they pit and move out of the way, it's you've still got to work your way through it.
So what I would say about Steve's league is it started very well. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on with it. Is there anything that you want to mention about your racing league, James?
All I'll say is, well, at the moment mine's in limbo as I'm recovered.
I know I've kind of dropped this on you, but I didn't want to just dismiss. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine.
But yeah, no. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be back to my best as soon as possible. But if any of the drivers from my racing league fancy joining, they're more than welcome. I have put a message up in the chat pie, so hopefully, I think Steve F1 were in my racing league, and he's come over. And
he's also brought his cousin with him as well.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so, Rich Blues is his cousin.
All right. So hopefully we can get a few more in there and make it even more exciting.
Well, we got a new driver this week that says he's got 2 friends that are racing in this league already. And I didn't recognise his name from your league, but I've got a feeling that his 2 friends are probably Rich Blues and Steve F1 because they're the only 2 that I'm aware that they are. I don't think there's anyone else that race. You and who's the other friend? You've got 2 friends. You've only got 1 friend, Dave.
Well, yeah, that's James, but that's not the point. So what's the? All right, should we say the person's gamer tag?
Formula Gary something. So I don't think he's been in James's league.
No, it might be. It might be Rich, or it could be Twilight, because Twilight and Ace Man are friends.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Not about that.
But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Okay, I just want to give a quick shout out to one of our listeners called Segro Origin Park. I don't know if either of you 2 saw his comment on the last video, the last podcast. He wrote, "Great review from the 3 chubby looking amigos. Keep up the good work." I think we're past chubby looking, to be honest. We're not just chubby looking, we're fat fuckers. I don't weigh myself. I really don't.
I need a t-shirt that says wide load on the back of it.
I tell you, if I had the choice of walking over a frozen lake to get some food or not, I wouldn't walk over the frozen lake.
Yeah. Otherwise you become fish food.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if we should tell James about our dodgy sat nav.
Yeah, I think we probably should.
Okay.
I'll let you explain it because it was you that pointed it out.
Right, James. A couple of days ago, right, Steve asked me if I would take a drive with him up to Runcorn to pick something up that he'd bought. And so yeah, all right, I'll go with you. So he gets in the car and he's got a hire car.
Where are you going, sorry?
Runcorn.
Never heard of that.
It's not far from Warrington.
It's kind of between Manchester and Liverpool, sort of, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You could have popped up and seen me.
We could have done, but we had a dodgy sat nav. So Steve's still got his hire car because Nissan have fucked about with his car. Told him it was a clutch failure. He told them no, it was gearbox, and they said no, it's clutch. So they replaced the clutch, and now they've said actually the gearbox is broken as well, so we need to replace that. So he's got a hire car, and Steve didn't think that the car had sat nav. Turns out he can plug his phone into the car and display his phone sat nav on the screen. So we're using the sat nav. Anyway, as we're on the way back, and me and Steve are just chatting, I said to Steve, something along the lines of, well, in the car I drive, the sat-nav always says bear left, fork right, but I don't see no fucking animals or cutlery about. And he says, oh, well, in the Nissan it says slide right. Oh, slide? I think he's meant to say slight, but it sounds like slide. I was like, oh, right, okay. And then a light bulb went off in my head, James.
Yeah.
What about a Hando sat-nav that goes like this? You turn right. No, you're going the wrong way. You turn right. No, you're going the wrong way. Where you going?
Your turn.
You turn right. No, you go wrong way. Do you turn? You turn right. Now.
What
turn left.
At the fork. At the fork. Use protection.
You want the fuck in the road? So we might have to come up with a Hando voiceover for sat-navs, or see if I could. If I'd have had the time, I'd have written up a Hando script to do that. So I might have to work on it. But next time you're driving, James, you'll have to pretend your sat-nav's on and Hando's telling you what to do, and see what comes out.
Or repeat what it says in the Hando voice.
Yeah. You wanna watch out. There a fucking bear left. You have reached your destination. That will be £21.50. Now return to the Chinese.
I'm in middle of doing a livery.
Oh.
And I'm thinking of putting Donald Trump on it again.
Oh dear.
And I'm going to put I love China.
I tell you, I was watching a documentary last night about the world's biggest dam, and it went through a story of the first dam, which was actually built in Britain, by the way. So Britain is the home of the dam, and not just for dam
Not
busters.
the one up at Buxton, is it?
No. It's Lincolnshire, I think, or Wiltshire. It's one of the shires, and there's thousands of them. But anyway, it was a very interesting programme, and it went all the way up to a dam that's being built in China at the moment. It's over 2,000 metres wide. Or long, should I say. Like the span of the river, the dam is over 2,000 metres across. It is fucking huge. To put it into perspective, the Hoover Dam, if I remember rightly, used 66 million tonnes. I might be wrong with that. It might be 6 million, but I'm pretty sure it was 66 million tonnes of concrete. Right? This dam in China is 3.5 times as big. So you're looking at 100, nearly 200 million tonnes of concrete.
Yeah.
And
concrete companies are making plenty of money then.
Oh yeah, and right, there is the river it's a big river, so it's used by boats, big boats. Well, if you've got a dam, a boat can't get past it. Well, they put a lock system in that goes. There's 5 separate locks to get you up, or for the passenger boats, because it takes, I think, 4 hours to get from the bottom lock to the top level, or right, which is no good for passenger boats. There's a boat lift, right, which can get you from bottom level to top level in just under an hour. But the boats that go on it are not small. They're like 180 metres long. So this boat lift is fucking enormous, and it's 118 metres tall.
Jeez.
Yeah. So if you're interested in like massive engineering, check it out. It's called Big, Bigger, Biggest, and then Dam. fascinating to watch. And that was going to lead me on to something else as well, but I've kind of forgotten about it. But I was wondering, Steve, whether you want to, we've talked about flat earthers before. Just wondering if you wanted to tell James about your most recent comment, shall we say, regarding the flat earth community.
Oh, when I discovered the earth is flat?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, James, I was in the car on my drive and I'm thinking, if the earth was a globe, why is my car not moving? Why is it not rolling off the edge? Why am I, because the earth's not flat in a globe. So my car should just always continuously roll. So the earth must be flat.
Or it's a bit like saying...
That's like saying, I'm in Australia, why am I not flying off the earth?
Or, if the earth is a globe, surely there's hills all around the globe where when you're going up the hill, you're not actually going up the hill, you're level.
Yeah.
But anyway, that wasn't what I was on about, Steve. I was on about the comment you actually posted on someone's YouTube video.
Oh, that one. I'm trying to remember now. What did I put? Oh, there was a video. It's really boring, blokes. I'm not going to promote his video because it's really boring. Basically, it's a picture, and he's 210 meters above sea level up a hill somewhere. It's 210 meters high, and in the distance, there's a bridge, and the top of this bridge, like the stanchion, is 210 meters. So that's at his eye level, 210 meters above sea level. But in the far distance, beyond the bridge, there's hills, and these hills are supposed to be 500 meters, and they're not above the bridge stanchion, they're below, yet they're supposed to be 500 meters above sea level. So he's saying that this proves that there's curvature of the earth, because if it was flat, the hills would be above. So I wrote a comment saying, duh, it's all to do with perspective.
Pretending to be a flat earther.
Yeah, pretending to be a flat earther.
So you're being a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve the troll. It's a bit like Shrek, but not as green. Oh dear. I know there was something else I was going to mention to James as well, but
I've been watching lots of Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I have.
It started with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Same here.
And now I'm just on Joe Rogan's thing where he's talking about, God, what's the name of it? The Ice Age and the mass extinction of
animals. Well,
a lot of life on Earth.
Well, Joe Rogan used to be a flat earther, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
Is it the Joe Rogan Experience?
Yes, yeah. Right. See, I started watching Neil deGrasse Tyson, told you two about him, and through watching that, it showed videos of Neil deGrasse Tyson on Joe Rogan's podcast. So I watched a few of them, and that then showed links to him chatting to loads of other people, and some of them are really interesting to listen, like, because he's connected with UFC, I think, and MMA. So he's got like a bit of a fighting background. But he interviews all sorts of people, from Dale Hart Jr. to Mel Gibson. The Mel Gibson one was
Tyson
interesting.
Fury.
Tyson Fury. I think he's up to, he's in the thousands of shows that he's done. And some of them are brilliant. He talks about Ronda Rousey, they talk films, conspiracy theories, but on some of them, he does talk about how he used to be a flat earther. Basically, he started watching things that then made him question reality, and he was caught up in it all. He's not a flat earther anymore, however, he does still kind of lean towards the conspiracy theory of the moon landings. So when Joe Rogan was talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Neil knows that he used to be a flat earther and that he's still dubious about the moon landing, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I've just tagged that on a watch to later with the Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I can't say I never knew of Joe Rogan before I started watching it, but some of his podcasts are really, really good.
Yeah, no, they are good. But yeah, that's one that I've been having a look at. I'm trying to think of another one. Oh yeah, I've been watching. I don't know if you spotted it. We're on BBC overnight, and it was a filmmaker. What's his name? Peter Jackson, who did the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes.
He's basically spent 4 years away from the movie industry, restoring archive footage of World War One.
Ooh.
And it's all, when it shows you the original footage that he had to work with, it were like we're explaining like the cameramen of the day, because cameras were so in their infancy. A normal movie camera with today's technology, you can get 60 frames per second to make it as real as possible. But even movies don't film 60 frames a second. They film, well, majority of them film at 24 frames a second. And what you were explaining was that the cameramen of the day used to roll the film round the camera like on a handle, like going round. So like the faster that the cameraman wound the film, would result in it looking like slow motion. And the slower that the cameraman wound the footage, and make it look like as if they're moving really fast because there's less frames per second.
Yeah.
And he basically restored all this footage. And I swear to God, it looks like somebody's filmed it yesterday and colorized it, like. And he says like, I'm sick of watching stuff where it says like World War II in color and all this lot. And like they've literally just gone with a paintbrush, or his jacket, let's just draw it green, or let's just draw that. And they literally went and got loads of like replica or actual stuff, and then photographed it in all different light, and then decided which one was the most appropriate, and then applied that to the black and white footage. And I swear to God, I saw it and I'm like, that is just fucking immense. Like, what? It just looked like it were filmed in HD. And it's literally like, rather than stuff where you look at it in the past and you go, fucking hell, that must be old. You're literally looking at it going, that looks like it was filmed yesterday.
I think it popped up on my recommendations, but I've not watched it, but I'm going to have to try and find it.
Definitely watch it.
Well, seeing as you mentioned about filmmakers there, I will just give a quick shout out and RIP to the legend that is Stan Lee, who sadly passed away yesterday. There's a lot of famous people that when they pass away get applauded for things that they've done. Some I agree with, some I don't. Stan Lee, though, I think is one that there probably isn't anybody in the Western world that hasn't had some form of connection with that guy, whether it be through films or comics over the last, 60 years? For anyone that doesn't know who Stan Lee is, shame on you. I mean, I was reading something last night that was saying that, you know how he appeared in all of the movies that he was associated with?
Yeah.
There was actually a lot of rumours going around about his character in all of the movies. So you know, like how you've got the Marvel, all the different Marvel characters, and they come together for Avengers, so they're all part of the same universe. So there's fan theories about Stan Lee's character within the universes, so that connects each of his characters from one to another. If there was, unfortunately, it may never come to fruition, but in a way it would be nice if in some way they could form some kind of some kind of connection between him and all of his movies, because he was a pioneer, really. But I mean, it's a little bit like you had Bill Gates with a pioneer of technology and stuff like that, and he's one of humour and entertainment and yeah. I mean, to be doing it as long as he was, it's something that should be definitely applauded. That's for sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and actually, now you brought up him. Also watched a documentary about the creation of Batman. Now,
so it just made me think. Have you seen the picture that's going around on Facebook today about Batman cheering the fireworks?
No.
I knew I should have tagged. I knew I should have seen it tagged. I'll have to find it. So, James, you carry on. Tell your story while you're doing that. I'll see if I can find this thing.
Yeah. So basically, do you both happen to know who was basically, well, what we've been told is the Stan Lee version, but for the DC movies?
What do you mean, the guy?
The guy who apparently created that.
The name eludes me, but I do know him and Stan Lee over the last number of years became friends because they were enemies. They were rivals, and they became friends and were considering a collaboration. Just so to fill in some info, but yes, I can't think of his name, but I know who you're on about.
His name is oh fuck! It's just gone out of my head now.
That's a long name. Imagine being him at school. Sarah Jones here. Oh fuck! It's got out of my head. Here.
So it's Bob. It's Bob Kane.
Yeah.
He always says Batman universe created by Bob Kane. And he pretty much went to his grave with the name, the creator of Batman. Now, technically, he was the creator of Batman, the name, and the character. But the character was literally, all he wrote was, he's a detective who dresses like a bat. That's all he did.
Oh.
Absolutely everything else was created by a man called Bill Finger. And this man created everything to do with Batman. He created pretty much like everything you can think of. All the villains, the Batmobile, the reason why he's Batman, his mother and father getting shot in a back alley, the Joker, everything has been created by Bill Finger. And this guy called Bill Finger was literally paid every single week about the equivalent to minimum wage for creating the entire Batman universe. And Bob Kane was his boss, and he was reaping all the rewards.
Bloody hell.
And it isn't until this guy Bill Finger's passed away that the recognition has finally basically come to light, and the Billfinger, what is left of the Billfinger family. I think it's like his great granddaughter. This is all that's left. She's now getting paid royalties for her granddad's work, and the royalties are mental.
I can imagine. I've sent you this picture. You might want to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I can't show it on the podcast, unfortunately.
Why not?
I just can't.
I see Batman enjoying fireworks.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
What else do you see?
No, he's just. He's not enjoying the fireworks. He's just took a massive gulp of water. It's gone down wrong hole, and he's just spraying it out right quick.
Is it gushing?
It's gushing everywhere.
Well, he's got his head in the right place anyway.
I'm wondering if James has only seen Batman or whether he's seen the other bit.
Oh, no, I've seen the other bit. I'm just winding you up.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Oh, dear. I saw it and it did make me chuckle. So, yeah, if anyone does want to know what that was about, I don't know, Google Batman enjoying fireworks, see what it brings up. But yeah. Right. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm just about out of all of my stuff that I was going to talk about tonight.
I've got one more thing. And you'll probably both say, I don't care.
I don't care.
Formula E have signed up to the BBC.
Oh.
BBC will be showing all races live.
Right, because I heard it were just going to be free to air on YouTube. But
No,
it's the BBC.
It's BBC, and it's going to be available on the Red Button and on iPlayer, and the BBC Sport website. So yeah,
see,
free to view.
That could be a good move for BBC. Could be a good move for Formula E. The only problem with it is, whenever I have watched Formula E, it's been extremely boring with no overtaking and everyone just following everyone. And I think, why are the tracks so narrow? If they made them a bit wider, people might be able to have an attempt at overtaking. But they probably make the tracks dead narrow to make it seem like the cars are going faster. So, I don't know. Okay, good on BBC, but if it's boring, I ain't going to watch it.
Well, this season should be the first one where it really comes to life, because it's the first season where they don't need to do these stupid pit stops for changing cars.
Right.
But I think they're bringing in the tyre change rule still, so they might have to do pit stops for tyres. But they're able with these next gen cars to be able to go the same distance as two of the old cars. So, and they've upped the power by about 25%. So they will be quicker.
You know, I'll probably watch the first one or two just to see Susie Wolf. But because she's got her own team in there now, hasn't she?
Well, I don't think they're racing in this year coming up. I think they're racing in the following season.
Oh, right.
It's a season too soon for them to be ready. From what I understand, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Fair enough. I might have to check it out. By the way, quick, James, you know we mentioned about Predator, the new Predator film.
Yeah.
Did you watch it when you got home from work?
Oh, fuck no. Oh, I forgot all about it.
But at least you remembered the podcast tonight, so that's all right.
And did you download Warface?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'll do that, don't worry.
Yeah. He's doing his livery at the minute, but he'll do that, yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, well, I'm currently I'm going with a gold, white and black livery. And the front of the car is like black and gold. Then it goes to black and gold and white. And then at the back I've just got white. I'm thinking, what's the best thing to go with white? Is it just black or
blue?
Red.
Red.
Not yellow, not green.
Scoochie.
So blue or red with white. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, last night I went to do myself some food, and while I was doing that, I was working on my livery because this is on GT Sport game. I spent ages yesterday doing a livery, and the game crashed. And then I worked out, well, I won't use that car anyway. So the car I'm now going to use, I thought, right, I'm going to make a livery for this, and I decided to incorporate part of my design that I'd lost into it. I spent, well, let's put it this way. What time did I text you, Steve, saying I won't be online again tonight?
About 12, I think it was.
Right, okay. I kind of lost track of time a bit. By the time I finished and went to bed, it had gone 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and I spent all of the time was literally just doing a livery on the car. It looks brilliant, but I still can't decide what base colour to use, right? Because there's 2 or 3 colours that work on it as a base. But
change it from race to race.
To be honest, I think I'll probably only use the car once. But I'm gonna have to make a decision. I like what I've done anyway. Also, I've quite a few of my cars have told a little bit of a story this season. Like one of them has promoted Hando. All of them have promoted our podcast. The last one had a story on that Steve told once. Well, this one has got its own little story, but I'm not going to tell anyone. People will just have to see if they can work it out. Anyway.
All I'm going to say is my livery will not be noddy for the next race.
Yeah. Right, I think it's about time we call it a night on this show for tonight. I mean, it's been an interesting podcast. It was an interesting race with a hell of a lot going on, and hopefully Abu Dhabi will be an interesting race as well. It'll go one way or another. It's either going to be a fucking bore fest, or it could be very entertaining. I think with both championships freed up, entertaining could be the way. I mean, to be honest, here's a thought for you, right? If I was in Mercedes, right, you go into the last race, titles are decided, you go, right guys, bang new engines in both those cars please, we'll start at the back of the grid, it don't matter, drivers, go and have some fun. That's what I'd do. Use everything you've got, full power, full beans, don't worry about the engine, just fucking go and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But then Hamilton won't be on pole.
True.
Ain't gonna happen though, is it? That's an ideal world.
Yeah.
No, I think if anything, Mercedes would rather get through the season and say, we've done it, we've got through the season only using 3 engines.
True, they might. I mean, one of the stats, actually, before we go, Lewis Hamilton at the weekend won his 49th race out of 99 races of the hybrid era.
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah. That is testament to the car and him as a driver, because within those races, Rosberg has won a championship, Ferraris have won a few races, Red Bull have won a few races, but Lewis Hamilton has got half of them.
Yeah, and that's why I keep voting for him on the predictions.
Yep. Right, okay, time to call it a night then. So we'll probably take a break next week, but you can join us in 2 weeks' time at 8 PM, where we will review the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and maybe the season overall in general. Within those 2 weeks, though, make sure you check out the Dynamic GT League YouTube channel if you want to see some action-packed racing. It's definitely interesting, that's for sure. Anyway, we've been I'll Tell You What TV, and we'll see you again soon.
See ya.
Adios.
Blah 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 blah.